A girl is perched on top of some guy, casually smoking a cigarette. And the dude, in turn, is getting checked out by the woman above him, who then leans in with a smirk and comments that he's finally decided to join the living. In total shock, the red-haired kid wonders where the heck he is and tries to process this crazy situation. Absolutely terrified, he leaps out of bed. The girl just scoffs, asking if whatever he was on wore off a little too quickly, and adds that she heard conscious people are way more fun to play with. That's when it starts to click for our guy. He quickly puts it together. He's been reincarnated. He remembers that 300 years ago, he accidentally stumbled into the fairy realm on Mount King Kong, which kicked off his whole cultivation journey. In those 300 years, he grinded non-stop to gain knowledge, training every single day to become a master sword cultivator. Just then, he recalls the moment he finally reached his ultimate goal. But confused, he realizes he unexpectedly failed to achieve the eternal realm and feels like he ripped open a corridor of space-time, which shot him right back to Earth as his 17-year-old self. However, he still has no clue who this woman is or what she's after. With that same sly grin, she calls him honey and tells him not to be shy and to hop back in bed, all while he's scrambling to throw on his robe, feeling pretty awkward. He tries to explain that there's been a huge misunderstanding between them and announces that he's leaving. She shoots right up, questioning where he thinks he's going. Annoyed, she introduces herself as Ye Changxi and declares that she's not letting him walk out, adding that just getting to see her is a blessing for him. Completely blowing her off, he just turns his back and makes a beeline for the door. Yeah, she's not a fan of that attitude. In a flash, she lunges at our hero, grabbing his arm, and he's shocked by how strong she is. He tries to wrench himself free, and when he does, some kind of energy starts crackling from his hands. In that instant, she realizes who he really is, while our red-haired protagonist notices that his current body is completely drained of power. Suddenly, the girl unleashes her own energy blast that sends our boy flying across the room. He glances to the side, spots his school uniform, and knows he's got to bounce, like, right now. He snags his uniform and bolts. Still smoking, the girl just smirks and wonders aloud if this isn't getting interesting, commenting that he can run for now. With a confident smile, she wonders if he really thinks he can escape her, stating that Chunjing is her great white horse, so there's no way she's letting him go. At this point, our red-haired hero is already outside, taking in the city. And then it all hits him. 300 years have passed, and he's finally back on Earth. His thoughts immediately turn to his mom, his dad, and his brother. He can finally see them again. Suddenly, he overhears a woman saying that some guy is being super dramatic, asking if it's just a bag and wondering why on earth he's crying about it. With her arms crossed, the woman tells her boyfriend to stop crying and that she'll buy it for him today, acting all sweet, loving. Her boyfriend gives her a big hug, calling her babe and saying she's the best. Watching this whole scene, our hero gets a little pensive. Then someone shoves past, telling him to get out of the way. When he turns his head, the red-haired kid realizes it's a super jacked woman carrying 2 bags of cement. Apparently, the women around here are on a whole other level now. Construction. Stunned, he wonders what on earth happened, commenting that the people here are completely different from his time. A little while later, we find him at his school. Inside the library, our protagonist is buried in a book and discovers that back in ancient times, during the spring and autumn period, a catastrophe occurred that completely altered women's physical makeup, making them both smarter and stronger. During this era, a woman named Congo established Confucianism, which was a doctrine that basically put women on a pedestal above men. This massive power shift led to the emperor losing his throne and ceding the crown to the princess. Then, in the 21st century, modern ideas started to emerge, and with them, the notion of balancing out the respect between genders, though the fundamental image of female superiority remained. For instance, when a married couple gets divorced, it's the husband who gets kicked to the curb. Plus, in this world, it's totally normal for women to pursue men. Closing the book, the red-haired boy declares that this is absolutely ridiculous, this whole idea of women being superior to men, and on top of that, women being the ones to propose marriage. He has to accept this is his new reality, but he doesn't even know if his own family operates by these rules. Back at home, his father is tidying up when he hears the door open. It's our protagonist, who is ecstatic to finally see his father again. Without thinking twice, he rushes over to the man and gives him a huge hug. His father, named Lai Yantu, points out that he thought his son was going to be at school much later. Suddenly, the man leans in and starts sniffing his son's hair. His eyes go wide as he realizes his son is wearing perfume. He immediately asks if he was with a woman, reminding his handsome son that he's warned him it's dangerous for him to be out and about. Even if it's just a classmate, he has to be on his guard. Grabbing a newspaper, he points to a story about a 15-year-old boy who got himself into a world of trouble because he trusted a female classmate, then frets about how his own son is supposed to have a future. Not understanding a single thing, our protagonist wonders what his dad is even talking about. Full of concern, His father asks his son if he even knows how terrifying this world is. He also gripes that his sister just plays video games all day, despite being from a third-rate university, unable to land a job, and having zero experience, which means the boy is their only hope. Trying to change the subject, the redhead reassures his father that he gets it and that he shouldn't worry. He then smoothly pivots the conversation and asks where his mother is. Sighing, his dad says that his mother is still out discussing business with some clients and that since the business isn't doing well, things have been really tough on her. Wanting to escape this depressing topic, our hero just announces that it's time to eat and that he'll go call his sister. With a confident stride, he starts opening her door. His sister, Chu, is wide awake, shouting at a mail streamer on her computer, telling him that he should hurry up and take off his clothes. She starts yelling all sorts of thirsty comments at the screen. Seeing this mortifying scene, our protagonist quietly shuts the door. Completely red-faced, he starts to wonder what is wrong with this world and if this is all just some horrible dream. Suddenly, he lets out an ear-piercing scream. Startled, his sister jolts in her chair. Annoyed, she stomps out of her room, demanding to know what's going on. At that moment, she emerges from her room wearing some kind of nightgown with her arms crossed. His sister looks seriously annoyed as she glares at him. Feeling awkward, he points out it's dinner time and asks if she's watching some kind of spicy flick. With a grin, she tells him those are old news, that live streams are where it's at now, and clarifies that she was just checking out some jack dude who was putting on a show. However, she warns her little bro that it's not for boys like him. Feeling a bit relieved, she starts humming as she walks around the house. Taken aback by her answer, the protagonist can't help but chuckle. A little later, as the day winds down, his sister announces she's heading out for dinner with her friends and will be back later, before asking their dad for 1,000 yen. The old man, clearly annoyed, asks what she thinks she's doing. His daughter then fires back that she's just going to hang out with her friends, which makes the old man completely lose it, and he starts laying into her. Her father tells her she should be hitting the books instead, adding that if she were just half as decent as her brother, they wouldn't have to worry so much. With the cash now in her hand, the girl scoffs, asking why she should be anything like him, and complains that he always pulls that card. Besides, she has to keep her mouth shut since he might just marry some rich lady in the future. Yelling a quick goodbye, she announces she's out of there, while her father shouts after her not to blow it all, as our hero just asks his dad if he's really okay with letting her go. Munching on an apple, his father explains that she's a woman and that he can't keep her on a short leash like he does with him, because women have to work and make a living, but his sister's attitude is just terrible. It hits the boy like a ton of bricks. This world is completely backwards. Just then, his mother gets home from work. Overwhelmed with how much he's missed her, he rushes over to give his mom a big hug. Startled, the woman asks what's gotten into him and wonders aloud if he didn't already get his allowance from her. Then, she slips him some cash. Completely floored, the protagonist recalls how he used to hustle his mom for 21 yen to play at the internet cafe and wonders what's going on, since she's just handing out money like it's nothing. He tries to give the money back, telling his mom he doesn't need it. Laughing, she tells him to just keep it. She adds that while the family is going through a rough patch, she won't let it affect him, especially his grades, because he's her greatest pride. Switching gears completely, she then asks about her daughter, Chusha. Still fuming, her husband says that she needs to have a talk with her, and tells her the girl just took off. Grabbing a glass of water, the woman sighs that her daughter is just wasting her potential and wasn't raised to be like this. But she'll figure it out soon enough. Looking a little flustered, her husband agrees with his wife, telling her she's right. Still reeling, the salvage protagonist wonders what in the world is happening, thinking that even though he knows this place is backwards, seeing his parents acting like this is just too much. Just then, his mom pulls his dad into a hug, saying he's right and that men just have it so easy in life. She goes on to explain that life is way harder for women, so they should just let their daughter be until she learns her lesson. Watching all of this unfold, the protagonist feels totally creeped out. Excusing himself, he announces he's heading to his room. When he gets to his room, he's shocked to see it's decorated in a super girly style. Walking further inside, he can't help but wonder if this is really his room. In this world, where women's rights are prioritized, families always hope for daughters. This has been the norm for years, which has created a massive gap between the female and male populations across the globe. Because of this, in this country, millions of women are still single. Any woman who wants to land a good husband needs her own house and a sweet ride, and any guy who's even remotely good-looking gets chased after. Right then, our protagonist strolls up to his desk with a smug grin, thinking that with a face like his, he's basically prime real estate for the ladies. He then pulls open his drawer, putting an end to the mystery. Inside, he finds a stack of sealed love letters. Stunned, he figures he must be the school's biggest heartthrob, the #1 guy at the entire prep school. Lying in bed later, he decides this is more of a curse and that he has to focus on his cultivation, and get out of this world as fast as humanly possible. While meditating, he senses that the spiritual energy here is incredibly dense and powerful. If that's true, he can fully restore his cultivation base and all the skills he lost during his journey through space-time. He vows to open the space-time corridor and finally return to his home world. Getting desperate, he knows he has to escape this topsy-turvy world, telling himself he can't stand it a second longer. A little while later, night has fallen over his house. After practicing the Golden Freedom Jiao, all 5 of his senses have become razor-sharp. Feeling confident, he decides to make his first attempt at escaping this reality. He focuses on the energy flowing around the house and notices that his mom and dad are sound asleep, which makes him wonder where his sister is and why she isn't home yet. He facepalms, suddenly remembering that in this world, the roles of men and women are flipped, so it's actually not a big deal for a woman to be out all night. Still, he's worried, so he gives his sister a call. He asks what's up, and she immediately answers from the other end. She's screaming for him to just listen. He can hear that she's on the floor, on her knees, being held down by 2 women, and she's crying that she's in deep trouble. Immediately, the boy starts grilling his sister about what's going on. Frantically, she tells him that there's a black bag under her bed and he needs to bring it right now to the Crescent Bar over on High Street. Snatching the phone, a woman with blue hair gets, he's got one job, get the bag to room 302. With a look that could kill, our hero grits his teeth and agrees to the demand. A little while later, just as dawn breaks, the red-haired hero is already making his exit not through the door, but straight out the window. He mutters that there's no way he's letting this go down. Scaling the side of the building like a pro, he makes one thing clear: you do not mess with his family. Tapping into the crazy skills from his past life, he starts effortlessly leaping from one rooftop to another. In the blink of an eye, arrives at the Crescent Bar. He bursts into room 302 and is immediately met with the sight of his sister, screaming his name. Wasting no time, our guy just chucks the black bag right onto the table. He tells them they got what they wanted, so they better let his sister go. Now, the bandit leader crosses her arms, telling him to listen up. Then she smirks, commenting that he's even cuter in person than he was in the pictures. She steps closer, asking how old he is, but he just snaps back that it's none of her business. Clearly not a fan of his attitude, the woman's expression sours. Her eyes dart to the side, landing on the black bag. One of her goons walks over and opens it up, discovering a huge stack of cash inside. Totally floored, his sister blurts out, asking how in the world there's money in that bag. Our hero can't believe his ears, wondering if she seriously had no idea there was cash in there. He figures it has to be at least 1 million. In a panic, the girl yells out to her brother, Shu, swearing she had no idea about the money, that there was money inside, and Shia had only asked her to hold onto it for a little while. But the woman cuts her off, telling her to shut it, and sneers that she didn't think she had the guts to steal from her, accusing Lin of trying to take her place and her money. Glancing back, she tells the girl to get lost, warning her to do it before she has second thoughts. Nervously, the girl clutches her brother, but as they try to leave, the blue-haired woman tells him to wait right there. She asks who said anything about her brother leaving, too. With a cold resolve, the girl thinks to herself that she knew it wouldn't be this easy. The blue-haired woman chuckles, saying her brother is handsome and young, and while she's fine with the girl leaving, he has to stay. Annoyed, Shia snaps that she won't let them lay a finger on him. Panicking, she tells Ju not to drag his siblings into this and demands he let them go. Laughing, the woman suggests that maybe Shia should be the one to stay. With a wicked smile, she tells the girl she's free to go, but if she stays, she'll have to work very, very hard. Without a moment's hesitation, the girl agrees, saying it's fine and that she'll stay. Turning back, she tells her brother to head home first. She promises she'll catch up later, insisting it's not safe for a guy here and that she'll handle everything. Gently moving his sister's arm out of his way, Ju asks her if she really thinks he has no honor. He strolls forward with his hands in his pockets and smirks at the woman. So, you want me to stay? Their eyes lock, and both break into matching, unhinged smiles. The woman calls him a damn brat and asks if he has a death wish, warning that she'll make his life a living nightmare in every way imaginable. Before she can say another word, the protagonist simply winds up and slaps the woman clean across the face. In the background, his sister Wang is in total shock. Furious, Joe rushes in to punch him, but he counters, and the two immediately start trading blows. They quickly jump back, and just like that, the fight is on. The protagonist grins, thinking this is getting interesting. He realizes that the women of this world possess some serious power. Wincing at his injured hand, Joe orders the other women to get him. Confidently, Gia tells them to bring it on if they think they can. He leaps high into the air, dodging an attack, then unleashes a physical skill resembling a human whirlwind. In just a few seconds, everyone is on the floor. He declares that it's over, and they should get going. As they're about to leave, they hear a sharp click. Looking back, they see the blue-haired woman is now armed, warning that if they move, she'll shoot. She then sneers, asking if they seriously think they're faster than a bullet. Her brother steps forward, pleading with Yu not to do this and to just forgive his brother. Still enraged, the woman just curses at him. She screams that it doesn't matter and that even if he begs, she's going to end him right here. Holding up a phone, the protagonist coolly comments, "You're the one who wanted this." Just then, a woman smoking a cigarette starts laughing, remarking that this is quite an interesting sight. As she gets closer, she asks why she wasn't invited to the party. Looking again, he realizes this woman is the same ex-king from before. At that moment, he starts to worry, remembering their last meeting. He cautiously asks what she's doing here. Laughing, the woman explains that this entire place belongs to her. She then calls out to Xiao, telling her she'll handle this and that she can leave. Surprised, Joe calls her crazy sister and asks if she's really planning to break the rules. Wu gives him a death glare and asks what rules he's talking about. Then, she signals her security, take her away, remove her hands and feet, toss her out on the street. Hearing this, the blue-haired woman just collapses to the ground, trembling like a leaf. Utterly desperate, she starts crying, pleading no, and saying she's so sorry. Showing a sliver of mercy, the woman looks back and says they should just take one hand and one foot. Smiling, she tells Chu Xing that this is her little gift to him and asks if he likes it. Taken aback, Chu Xing then asks if she's actually trying to be kind to him. With a gentle look, she says yes, adding that he's the very first person to dare speak to her that way, making him different from all the others. Laughing, she says her mind is made up and informs the guy that he party is going to be her 36th boyfriend. He smacks her hand away, saying, "Sorry, not interested," and adding that he can very speedy, well take care of himself. Chu Xing just wonders who in their right mind would want to be someone's 36th boyfriend. Awkwardly, the girl remarks that he's just a scrawny little guy who could easily be one of the ladies from the pleasure district. Mocking her, the protagonist asks if she really believes that, and whether she dares to put her strength up against his. Absolutely terrified. His sister whispers, asking if he's lost his mind and how he could possibly challenge a woman as powerful as her. After hearing this, he asks if she's getting a bit full of herself. Responding boldly, he throws down the gauntlet and declares that if he wins, she has to stop bothering him for good. Surprised, she asks if he's forgotten that he's, well, a man. With a sly grin, he questions why she's acting so scared. Still, the woman introduces herself as Shen Qi, asserting that there's absolutely nothing she can't do. However, she adds her own condition. If she wins, he has to become her boyfriend. Without a second thought, the guy accepts. A little while later, the two are facing off against each other on a stage. A trio of women starts gossiping about the duel, and one of them says that if it were her, she'd want to play with the boy all night long, while her friends just crack up. Hearing all this, the protagonist reflects that in this world, women are seriously powerful and see men as completely disposable beings. Smirking, the girl tells Chu Xing she's about to make him understand the massive gap between men and women, a chasm as wide as heaven and earth. With that, they get ready to start the arm wrestling match. With a confident smirk, the woman begins to radiate some kind of supernatural energy. As he struggles, he realizes she's insanely strong and that the women of this world are truly no joke. However, his entire expression shifts as he declares that he is no ordinary human either. Shen Qi, for her part, notices the change in the guy, and then he instantly slams her arm down, winning the match and leaving her completely floored. After the duel is over, he reminds her that he won and that she better not forget their deal. Afterward, the protagonist grabs his sister's arm and they take off, while the whole crowd buzzes about what just went down. Absolutely furious about losing to a man, one of the guards approaches, saying she'll go after him, but all she gets is a hard slap from her boss. Fuming, Shen Qi tells her to shut it, claiming that she hasn't really lost yet. From the stage, she yells out to Chu Xing, saying that he surprised her, but he shouldn't forget that a man like him is destined to live under a woman's protection, and that her offer is still on the table. Frustrated, the protagonist fires back, asking why men have to rely on women, saying they have their own 2 feet and hands so they can forge their own path in life. Seeing this, one of the women asks if he's got a few screws loose. Smirking, Shen Qi remarks that since the dawn of time, men have been the ones pursued by women, and women are the ones who call the shots, pillars of this world. Twirling a lock of her hair, she adds that women are the real drivers of social change. She scoffs, saying that's something even a child knows. That's when one of the other women chimes in, asking what's so great about a guy like him anyway. She challenges him, asking how many male heroes you even see in literature, concluding that women are clearly more important to society. Stepping up to our protagonist, Wu asks what he's even trying to prove. Pointing a finger to the sky, he declares that all he knows is that men are always pushing themselves to be better, and because of that, resting in the lap of a beautiful woman is the ultimate reward for all that hard work. And with that mic drop, he grabs his sister and walks right out. Totally frustrated, one of the guards yells for Miss Wu, but her boss just smirks, asking if she doesn't find that guy absolutely fascinating, admitting he's totally her type and that she is not about to let him get away. The guard tries again, telling Miss Wu they need her back at base immediately. However, Wu just scoffs, saying she's only been gone for 2 days and there's no way she's going back now, adding that they need to stop calling her that, especially since her sister is still alive and kicking. Later that night, Sha is walking home with her brother and asks if he's going to tell their parents what happened. He says of course he is, and then asks her what she would have done if he hadn't shown up. Completely annoyed, the girl snaps back, asking if he's trying to blackmail her with this. After a moment's pause, her tone shifts and she asks how he got so strong all of a sudden. She then wonders aloud if this means she can't marry Yin, pointing out that he's the heir to a very powerful family in the city. She concludes that if they get married, it'll be a huge boost for her, and besides, she's only a few years older than him anyway, a thought that leaves her brother completely stunned. Getting seriously ticked off, he tells her to just shut it, warning that if she says one more word, he'll drag her right back to that bar. A little later, back in the safety of his own home, our hero is meditating, thinking that he needs to get his old power back as fast as possible, because his current level of strength just isn't going to cut it. So far, his training has only managed to sharpen his senses and boost his eyesight. Meanwhile, his sister is in the other room, watching TV, and impatiently tells her little brother to just drop his pants already. Unfortunately for her, our protagonist overhears this whole exchange while he's deep in his sensory training. He's completely appalled, thinking this Chuck Shaw is somehow even worse than his sister from his old world. The very next day at a man high school, our hero is all decked out in his school uniform, looking ready for class. From behind him, someone shouts his name. A bit thrown off, he wonders if it could be his best friend, Lindong. Just then, his buddy runs up, asking what he was up to yesterday and why he was totally ghosting his calls. Our guy instantly backs away, completely clueless about what's going on. His friend asks him why he's being so weird. Shu just laughs it off, telling him to forget it and that he's fine, before taking off. As he walks away, he thinks to himself that this Ken doll could never be his friend. Once in the classroom, he's just stewing in his misery, convinced he absolutely can't stand being in this world a second longer. Suddenly, someone walks up and taps him on the shoulder. Startled, he glances over to see Song She, the class president, asking him if he's feeling all right. He awkwardly brushes it off, claiming he's fine and just didn't have a good breakfast, so he's already starving. Very shyly, the girl offers him some food and reminds him that the university entrance exams are right around the corner, so he needs to keep his strength up. From across the room, another girl starts grilling the class prez, demanding to know how she dares to even speak to him. It's one of Chu's other classmates, and she marches right up to our guy, asking if he read the love letter she gave him yesterday. Without a moment's hesitation, the protagonist sends her stumbling back with a powerful shove, telling her to back off. Everyone is completely stunned by his sudden show of force. Furious, the girl scrambles up, screaming about who he thinks he is, and that he's just some guy. She then winds up to slug him in the face, but someone jumps in, yelling for them to stop immediately. It's Yell Watching's brother. The bully is totally shocked to see Yao, asking what in the world he's doing here. In response, the boy just tells her to get lost before he loses his patience. As she scurries away, the bully yells that she's only leaving because he's Whe Ching's brother. Ma then turns to Chu, telling him they need to talk and asks if he has a second. A little while later, the two are up on the school rooftop. Ma starts by saying he's incredibly sorry about yesterday and that he heard all about what went down with his sister. He explains that he'd asked someone to give Chu a ride, but then he couldn't get his location. In a flashback to the day before, we see our protagonist standing outside the Wei family's estate. That's when Ma asks his sister to drive the guy home. Later, inside the car, she offers him a bottle of water, saying it's all she has, but if he's thirsty, he should drink it. Our hero accepts the water without a second thought. Back in the present, a guilt-ridden Ma apologizes, again, saying if he'd had any idea what his sister was going to do, he never would have asked her for the favor. However, Shu tells him to just forget about it, insisting that he shouldn't dwell on it or feel guilty, and suggests they head back inside. Once class ends, everyone starts to head out. Looking over, our hero spots a car pulling up to the school. It's Ma's sister, and she's signaling for the protagonist to get in the car. He's immediately suspicious and asks why on earth he would do that, wondering why she's stalking him. With a sly smile, the woman simply warns him to think about his family. Left with no other choice, he gets in the car, and the girl purrs that this is much better, calling him handsome. Shu then coldly informs her that she just made a very serious mistake, getting herself involved with his family, but she flips the script, suggesting that maybe she wasn't actually making a threat. However, our hero calls her bluff, saying that threat or not, she wouldn't have brought it up otherwise. All of a sudden, he shatters a crystal ornament hanging in the car. Getting right in her face, he warns her that she better understand the consequences of daring to threaten him. She nervously insists it's not a threat and that she can actually help his mother and sister. She then adds that she knows his family's company has been in serious trouble lately. With a twisted grin, the guy asks if she's feeling sorry for him. She fires back, telling him she's only going to say this one time. She lays it all out, she's pursuing him, they should start as friends, and in return, she'll take care of his family's business problems. Hearing this, Chu casually takes a step back. He agrees, saying it's fine and they can start as friends. With a suspicious look, he warns her that if this was her real goal, she better not try to mess with him ever again. Annoyed, he tells Yi to get lost. A little while later, the girl calls our protagonist, saying she has to ask him something with a sharp look in her eye. She asks point blank if he practices ancient martial arts. However, our hero immediately denies it. The woman then says she knows he's lying about his strength and that he's not like other guys. She reveals that she did a little digging on him, digging into him and his family. She figures that even if she asked, he wouldn't tell her since it's obviously a secret. Hearing that, our hero just stays quiet, but then he glances to the side and spots a truck barreling towards them. He only has enough time to yell, "Look out!" But it's too late. The truck smashes head-on into their car. The impact is so massive that the car our protagonist is in gets sent flying. It slams back down onto the road, completely flipped over. Even though he's badly hurt, he asks if Che is all right. Turns out, the guy managed to shield her with his own body. Shocked, she realizes that he's the one who's hurt. Without a second thought, Shu scoops her up by the waist and just rips the car door off its hinges. He then declares that they both need to get out of the car. After climbing out of the wreckage with her in his arms, the girl says he's seriously injured and that they have to get to a hospital immediately. But our hero just scoffs, asking what she's talking about and if she really thinks it's over. Just then, a group of people starts walking toward them. It turns out to be a gang of women holding baseball bats. The one in charge steps up, demanding to know how they dared to hurt her man, and screams that she's going to end them both. Without any warning, the women charge, some swinging baseball bats, others with broken bottles, and one even brandishing a machete. In that instant, Che leaps into action, using her skills to defend herself. Meanwhile, a gray-haired woman comes at the boy, machete in hand. He clenches his fists, thinking to himself that they're underestimating him again. In a flash, he drives a powerful punch right into the woman's ribs, knocking the weapon from her grasp. The force of the blow sends her flying, and she hits the ground, completely out for the count. At the same time, Che is taking on all four thugs at once. With a grim expression, our protagonist snatches up the machete from Ever Blake, his fallen opponent. Looking determined, he charges the group that's ganging up on Shang-Chi. He's on them in a heartbeat and strikes three of the women with a single swing, sending them sailing through the air. The remaining two women just stare in shock as Che finishes her own attack. She hits both of them with a clean palm strike. Just like that, all the attackers were taken down with barely any effort. Looking pleased with the outcome, Yi tells the protagonist that what he did was incredible. But Ma just brushes it off, saying it was nothing and that she should handle the rest. She agrees, saying she'll make a call to get this cleaned up, and admits that if it hadn't been for him, she would have been in some serious trouble. Then she looks at him and asks if he's really just a prep school kid. Looking at the mess, Chu says their dinner plans are obviously off for tonight and they'll have to reschedule, since it's getting late and his dad is probably worried. Right then, the girl's phone starts buzzing. She answers it, asking what's wrong. Within just a few seconds, her face goes pale, and our hero definitely notices. He starts to ask what's really going on, but she just turns her head away, insisting it's not important and has nothing to do with him. She adds that other people's family problems aren't something a prep school kid like him should be getting involved in. But then, Yi rushes over to the hero, grabbing his arm and begging him not to leave. With a shaky voice and tears in her eyes, she tells him that her mother was badly hurt in an attack, and that she's at home right this very moment. The whole situation seems suspicious, and Chu points out that both she and her mother getting attacked at the exact same time can't possibly be a coincidence, concluding that Jimmy's whole operation is in for a major shakeup. Worried sick, he starts talking about how her mother might not make it, Aunt taking over, which would definitely get her kicked out of the family. She then desperately asks what she should do. Trying to calm her down, he tells her not to cry and that he'll go with her, explaining that the family is now depending on her, which means she has to be strong and stand her ground. He concludes that he can at least be there for moral support. Surprised, the girl wonders why he's being so kind, thinking about how she might actually be able to trust a man's feelings for once. Without a second thought, she walks right up to the hero and gives him a huge hug. Later that night, at the heavily guarded Wu family estate, the young lady arrives, announcing that she's finally made it. A bit worried, the girl asks about the current situation. In response, the woman says things are looking grim. She can't get inside because Missy ordered that no one is allowed in except for the madam. Furious, the girl questions the nerve of this woman while the protagonist asks who this Yi person is. Shang-Chi explains she's the aunt her mother mentioned, someone who has been in the family for years, always plotting with other families. But since there was never any concrete proof, nothing could be done about her. Fed up, she tells the protagonist to come with her. However, one of the guards steps in their way and demands to know who the guy is, telling him he can't pass. Shang-Chi argues back, asking how they dare to disrespect her guest and questioning who they think they are. Stepping in, our protagonist claims to be a doctor, saying he's here to check on Miss Yi. He silently thinks about how lucky he is to be climbing the ranks in this cultivation world. Seeing this, the female guards start laughing, wondering, but aloud, if a pretty boy like him could possibly be a doctor. However, the hero calmly states that one of them has had a nasty internal system infection for years and mentions the other suffers from chronic pains, likely from practicing her martial arts incorrectly and using the wrong traditional remedies. Hearing this, the woman with the blue earrings thinks that this must explain why her colleague is always taking so much medicine, while the purple-haired guard admits she has no room to talk, since she is also taking medicine for a stomachache. They both bow, telling him he should go inside, but right then, Wheeze-on approaches. It's her, and she remarks that it's a good thing she arrived when she did, because otherwise, who knows what could have happened. She's standing right beside Ymir. The girl, looking completely fed up, vents her frustration about her aunt and her love for her mother, demanding to see her right now. With a mocking sneer, the woman says the young lady is incredibly rude, and asks if she shouldn't respect the family hierarchy and call her auntie. Pointing at our hero, she questions how he dared to bring this stranger here, stating that no man is permitted to enter the W family grounds. However, the young lady explains that he's the doctor she summoned and insists they both be allowed in at once. Looking surprised, the older woman says she just thought he was that guy who had been brought home a few days ago. She clarifies that for any man to enter, he must possess a certain set of skills. Otherwise, he won't get past this door. To start, she asks her own daughter to test out just how skilled this man really is, and the girl agrees. Theon thinks that if her daughter marries Wei Chen, she'll end up fighting to protect him, breaking all the family rules, and then no one will be there to protect her. Mir calls the guy handsome, saying that if she wins, he has to promise her one thing. Smiling, he asks what she has in mind. With a sly look, the girl replies that if she wins, he has to have his way with her for a night. But Shangi steps in, warning Meyer not to take it too far. Just then, our hero grabs his arm, saying it's all good and that they should get this over with. All of a sudden, a blur rushes toward the protagonist. Jumping into the fight, she aims a kick at his knee, but he easily blocks it, realizing she was just trying to distract him. In a flash, he counterattacks and lands a solid punch right in her gut. The force of the blow sends her flying backward as her mother screams out her name. Furious, the hero sneers, asking if she's still interested in that night together. In the background, her aunt gasps that this is horrible and calls him a complete animal, but the girl chokes out that it's enough, admitting she started it. Scoffing at her, Shu tells the mother she'd better get her daughter to a hospital because he can't guarantee she won't end up as an inpatient. As they leave, the woman cradles her daughter, cursing him for being so unbelievably cruel. A little while later, back at the girl's house, the aunt is pacing nervously, waiting for her niece to get back. The moment she arrives, her aunt pulls her into a hug, relieved that she's finally home. Changing the subject, the girl asks where her mother is. Her aunt explains that she's stable, but her injury is pretty severe, so for now, all they can do is keep her under observation. Jumping into the conversation, our hero says that if that's the case, they can't just sit around and wait, adding that he might be able to help. Completely confused, the blonde aunt asks who this kid in front of her is. Brushing off the question, the hero just tells them they're going to have to trust him. Shang-Chi quickly explains that this is her friend who also got attacked, but luckily, he was there to help her out. She adds that he's a doctor too. With that, they head into the mother's room. The girl immediately rushes to her mom's side, hugging her and asking if she's all right. Weakly, the woman asks who the boy is. Her daughter replies that he's a doctor and that Shang-Chi trusts him completely, so he needs to take a look at her injuries. The mother just scoffs, saying she doubts he can do much of anything, and then asks for a moment alone with her daughter. As she says this, the aunt gestures for our hero to step outside, but the girl insists her mom let him take a look, telling her that he's absolutely amazing, and if it wasn't for him, she would have been seriously hurt earlier. Shocked, the mother realizes this is the first time her daughter has ever said anything positive about a guy, and she starts to wonder if he's actually different from all the others. Truan then confirms her injury, explaining that she was struck by a blast of malicious energy on the left side of her back. He then asks if she's feeling drained from using all her Ezreali and all her Ezri, then asks own energy to fight off the invading force. Stunned, the woman's eyes go wide as she realizes he's completely right. In a calm but serious tone, she asks her daughter to leave the room, saying she needs to speak with the boy alone. Hearing this, the daughter gets a little nervous, not sure what's going on. And just like that, our hero is left alone with the injured woman. Annoyed, she immediately grills him, demanding to know if the Leaf family sent him and what exactly his intentions are with her daughter. The hero calmly replies that he has nothing to do with the Leaf family. He suggests she should be asking her own daughter about who's interested in who. He finishes by reminding her that if he hadn't stepped in, her daughter would be dead right now. After hearing that, the woman says she believes him. With that settled, she decides to show him the wound. As she starts to remove her clothes, she warns him that if he tries anything with her daughter, she'll personally take his head. Suddenly, getting a nosebleed, our hero thinks to himself that maybe she shouldn't have undressed quite so fast, that even though he's underage, he's still a man. However, when he opens his eyes, he spots something odd at some kind of curse branded onto the woman's back. Nervously, he comments that whoever attacked did way more damage than he'd first thought, and while she can fight it off for now, it's going to destroy her internal organs within 5 days. The Yi family's housekeeper then asks if there's anything he can do about it. Placing his hands on her back, he confirms he'll give it a shot right then and there. He uses a type of healing magic, and the curse mark seems to get sucked right into his hand as he works. The woman winces in pain. Our hero, completely focused, channels a ton of his energy into healing her. He sighs, saying at his current level, this is the best he can do for now, and he doesn't dare pull it all out at once since he has no idea what might happen. The woman, totally impressed, asks how he did that and says the important thing is that she already feels better. Smiling, she asks how she can possibly thank him and if there's anything he wants. He gets a little awkward and apologizes, saying that since her daughter is his friend, he felt like he had to do it. A bit embarrassed herself, the woman starts laughing, saying they're just friends and that she'd completely forgotten about that. A little while later, Shangzhe tells the protagonist that he's absolutely incredible and she never imagined he could heal her mother like that. While hugging him, she says he shouldn't want her leave tonight because she has a special reward for him. Pulling away from her, the boy explains that if his parents found out he crashed at a girl's house, they would totally lose their minds. Saying his goodbyes, Exe agrees he's right, calling him handsome and reminding him to be careful not to give in to temptation. At that moment, our hero is looking down at his hand, where some kind of cursed energy is now lingering on his palm. He nervously thinks that this thing is a curse he can't possibly get rid of at his current level, and that back in the fairy world, there was an elixir that could handle it. He starts to wonder if something like that even exists in this world. The next day, our hero is walking to school when he looks over and sees a bunch of guys cheering for Tang Zan. It's the purple-haired girl who just sunk a basket, and as he's watching her, the protagonist realizes it's really her. She was his first love from back in prep school. Totally excited, the boy thinks that she still makes his heart skip a beat, while another guy remarks that Tang is a total genius. It's then that our hero remembers that things are different in this world. Here, they're complete strangers, so he decides not to bother her or make a fool of himself. But suddenly, someone calls out, telling him to wait up. It's Tang, and she asks the protagonist if they've met somewhere before. In response, the boy just says they go to the same school, so probably. But she argues, saying that's not what she meant. He gets nervous, thinking this is just like in his past life she's always trying to figure things out. Getting closer, she asks if he wants to play some basketball, offering to teach him. Hearing the invitation, he just smirks and snatches the ball right out of her hands. As they face off, he wags his index finger, challenging her to a game. The purple-haired girl, now a little irritated, says it should be a real competition and if she wins, he has to be her boyfriend. With a mischievous smirk, he asks what happens if he wins, and she fires back that she'll do absolutely anything he wants. Everyone starts buzzing that Tang Zan is about to go one-on-one with the most talented guy in the entire school. Over on the basketball court, Zillion moves like lightning. She blows right past our hero, pulls up for a three-pointer, and sinks it, leaving him looking totally stunned. As she keeps playing, the crowd starts buzzing, saying Zine's about to claim him as her boyfriend and that she's clearly the best player out here. Feeling her win, Tang declares she's not holding back anymore and that she's coming for him as her boyfriend. Rubbing the back of his neck, our protagonist just casually tells her to bring it on again. However, the girl charges at him again with the basketball. She launches herself into an incredible leap for the shot, but suddenly, she realizes something is off. Shu manages to completely block her shot, shutting her down completely. The ball goes flying way out of bounds. Someone in the crowd, totally amazed, wonders out loud how a guy can even get that high. Gearing up, our boy announces that it's his turn now. He makes a break for the hoop, ready to score in one unbelievable move. He soars through the air and throws down a monster slam dunk, scoring in an instant. A totally shocked Tang has no choice but to admit defeat. Cutting right to the chase, she asks him what he wants from her. Walking up close, our hero reaches out, touches her face, and asks if she really wants to be with him. The guys watching are getting secondhand embarrassment, whispering about how smooth he is and how he totally nailed it. Just then, Zine breaks into a blushing smile. She tells him that if he wants her, he's going to have to be even stronger. Seeing her reaction, our hero is completely thrown off. He's thinking, when did this girl get such a big ego? A little while later, over at the White family's estate, the protagonist is once again performing his healing on the woman. As he works, he reflects on how helping her recover also boosted his own pure aura and spiritual body by a solid 30%. Once he's finished the treatment, our protagonist gets ready to head out. Right outside, he runs into Shangi, who thanks him for saving both her and her mother, and then asks what kind of reward he'd like. For a split second, our hero's mind flashes to a pretty wild fantasy. Getting flustered, Chu quickly starts to leave, saying he needs some time to think it over. While walking home, he muses that during his next session with Aunt Wei, his spiritual body might awaken completely, which would be a huge leap forward in this world. Just then, a flashy purple car pulls up, and someone dressed in over-the-top clothes gets out. This guy walks right up to our protagonist, asking if he's the one they call Chu King, and if it's true he's been making moves on Tang Zan. The guy scoffs, asking if he actually thinks he's good-looking, and then wonders if he's ever even heard of Li, which just makes our hero sigh. He can't help but wonder if this dude is a complete moron. The guy then lunges forward, yelling about whether Chu is deaf, since he's talking to him, and winds up for a slap. But our hero is way faster, snatching his opponent's wrist and stopping him cold in an instant. Li immediately starts screaming at his bodyguards, asking what they're just standing around for, and ordering them to help him take care of this clown. In that same moment, our protagonist strikes first, taking out both guards with a single kick. He then grabs Li's head and smashes it straight into the pavement. With a dead serious look, he warns him that the next time he wants to pick a fight, he'd better bring more people. Furious, the guy sputters that the Li family won't let him get away with this and tells him to forget about ever having Yan because she's going to marry him. Our hero just punches him square in the face, telling him he's way too loud and annoying. After laying a beat down on, the purple-haired punk Shu dusts off his hands. As he walks off, he starts to wonder if Tang Xiu's decision has dragged his own family into trouble and questions how they could ever agree to an arranged marriage with the Li family. He figures he needs to dig a little deeper to get the full story. Then it hits him, Shangi offered him a reward. He decides he's going to ask her for a favor instead. At that moment, he sends her a text saying he needs a private investigator for a job. In response, she wires him some money, telling him to keep it. Our hero, however, is confused and asks why she did that. The so-called poor student then realizes she probably assumes he's broke, but he understands that the funds are actually necessary for the investigation and for buying intel. He then makes a call, asking if he's speaking to Haha, and starts to explain why he reached out. Cutting him off, the girl asks if he's looking for some fun, stating that she isn't cheap. Sometime later, at a local diner, our hero sits waiting for someone while sipping his drink. He recalls that when he called the info broker, she didn't ask for any payment up front. He thinks it's a bit unusual and wonders if she's really trustworthy. Just then, someone comes up and taps him on the shoulder. It's Shen Ha, 23 years old, greeting him. Approaching a bit timidly, she asks what kind of information he wants. In total shock, he wonders if this is really the girl, thinking she looks like some bubbly airhead. Shen confirms that it is indeed her, and he can just call her her. She then immediately asks about his relationship with Yu In, flatly stating that the girl isn't his girlfriend, and then asks him to date her instead, leaving him completely floored. After an awkward cough, the protagonist clarifies that he's here to buy information and asks if she knows anything about Tang Zhen's family. Surprised, the girl asks if he's talking about the Tang Zhen he faced in a basketball game, and then asks if she's his girlfriend. He denies it immediately. At that moment, he wonders how this girl knows all this stuff about him and whether she's already investigated him as she coyly places a hand on her face. Shen then asks if this means she has a shot at pursuing him. However, he shuts her down, telling her she should seriously focus on the job or he'll find someone else to buy information from. Finally getting down to business, the girl explains that the Tang family is a massive commercial family with a huge corporation as their headquarters, and many of the city's major companies belong to them. She mentions that recently, there have been some serious issues in the Tang family's supply chain, causing the Yi family's financial struggles led them to propose a marriage alliance. She clarifies that marrying Li Yuwei to Tang Yi, the head of the Tang family, would secure the Tang family's support. The hero thinks to himself that he never expected Tang Yi to have so many secrets in his past life, wondering if she kept quiet to avoid burdening him. The young informant then asks if that's all he needed to know. However, the hero says he also wants to know about alchemy. The girl explains that the Tang family is a clan of alchemists who specialize in elixirs and medicine. At that moment, he was shocked, realizing that alchemist families are a real thing in this world. Curious, he asked the girl if she could provide every last detail. Getting a bit flirty, she says yes, but adds that it all depends on the price he's offering, calling him handsome. Annoyed, he tells her to stop looking at him like that, but she just laughs it off. She explains there are two types of alchemy that they know of. The first is common alchemy, where alchemists use their internal energy to craft elixirs, which is the Tang family's specialty. However, the second type, alchemy, uses a mysterious spiritual power, which she admits they don't fully understand yet. Upon hearing this, the protagonist is floored, wondering if there are other people in this world just like him. After sharing all that, the girl says the info will cost him a total of 100, and since he's so good-looking, she offers him a 20% discount. Chu then asks if she has any intel on confidential deals, like for medicinal herbs and similar items. Hua says if he treats her to dinner, she'll spill the beans. A little later, they're both walking down a street near a food stall. A guy calls out to her, asking if she's there to grab a bite. After sitting down, she orders a whopping 20 pork breasts and 4 cold beers. Stunned, our hero wonders if all women in this world love pork breasts and starts questioning if this is actually normal. Looking around, he confirms that every single woman is devouring pork breasts and chugging beer. He facepalms, realizing he completely forgot this world is the polar opposite of his original one. A while later, the girl is clearly hammered. In her drunken state, she gets uncomfortably close to the protagonist. Crying, she tells him that the guy she likes shot her down because he thinks she's poor, even after she'd been crushing on him for years. She explains that, sure, she's a bit on the small side up top, but she has her own little house and is a total gamer girl. She asks if he doesn't think she deserves someone, but he flatly says no, he doesn't. Hearing this, the girl yanks her hands away and, blushing, asks the protagonist if maybe, just maybe, he's the one who likes her. Fast forward a bit, and he's carrying her in his arms, telling her she really shouldn't drink so much if she can't hold her liquor. Playing the gentleman, the protagonist takes her home, all the while thinking about how this blonde girl can't even manage her own place. He concludes she must be a true homemaker type. Our hero then lays her down on the bed to sleep. However, she suddenly grabs him, pulling him close. In a trembling voice, she begs him to stay with her, and he agrees. Smiling, the girl says that's perfect. Then, just like that, she passes out right on top of him. A little later, he's covered her with a blanket and is now scrolling through his phone. He starts reading the news about the Tangs, the family that's in some serious trouble. He also finds information on the Shinen auction house, the most prominent one in all of Jin, a business run by a master of ancient martial arts. A smirk forms on his face as he thinks it's impossible to survive in any world without some serious cash and that, thank the heavens, he's sitting on a gold mine. A few days pass, and our hero is sitting on a rooftop, channeling his energy. He recalls that in the world of immortals, there was something known as a spiritual stone, used to supercharge cultivation and assist in practicing ancient martial arts. These stones could be mined from spiritual veins or created through eternal cultivation that absorbs the aura of heaven and earth. However, in this world, spiritual stones don't exist, so it's time to enlighten the ones he possessed. He declares that as long as he can make them, money will be the least of his worries. Over at the Yi family home, late in the afternoon, the young lady's mother is also isolating some kind of energy. Smiling, she proclaims that her strength is returning and tells a certain rival to just wait and will return the favor. Pledging her gratitude, she tells him that if he ever finds himself in trouble, he only has to ask, and they will help him in a heartbeat. As he walks away, Chu reflects that he has finished detoxifying Madame Ye's body and that her spiritual power has now been partially unsealed. That means his main mission now is to focus completely on his own cultivation. Just then, someone calls out to Chu, telling him to wait. It's Tangi, and she's walking toward him. She leans in and plants a kiss right on him. Blushing, she explains it's just a small thank you for healing her mother. Suddenly, a security guard rushes over, calling out for the young lady and saying she's needed for an urgent meeting. She quickly says her goodbyes to our hero, apologizing that she has to run. She promises that one day, she'll give him her complete gift. A little flustered, our hero thinks to himself that being kissed by a girl like her really isn't so bad. Later, back at his place, he's sitting on his bed and cultivating his energy when he starts to emit an incredible amount of power from his palm. He remembers that when he crossed through the space-time corridor, the one thing he couldn't leave behind was this very sword. It's been his companion for 100 years and seems to hold limitless potential, but he's not sure if it truly belongs in this world. Just then, a massive surge of energy erupts from within him, and he declares that it's time to say goodbye to his weaker self. As he does, intricate markings that look like some kind of ancient script begin to crawl across his skin. With a smirk, our hero announces that his spiritual body has finally been reawakened, but just as he's celebrating, his sister bursts into the room, gasping about how indecent this is and demanding to know what he's doing. In that instant, our protagonist realizes he's in deep trouble and quickly hides the sword. The problem is, he's half naked, totally flustered, and it's painfully obvious that he's hiding something. Taking in this very awkward scene, his sister just slowly closes the door and backs away. She tells him to go ahead and enjoy himself, and even apologizes for interrupting his private time. Great, our hero thinks this is just another classic misunderstanding. After that bizarre encounter, he gets dressed and cleverly wears the sword as a necklace. He figures it's about time he paid a visit to the auction house to find out what his spiritual stone is really worth. A little while later, our protagonist strolls into the auction house to get down to business. A man at the counter looks up, annoyed, and asks if he knows what time it is. He tells the kid that they're closed for the day and to come back tomorrow. In response, our hero simply opens his hand and shows him the glowing stone resting in his palm. At first, the attendant scoffs that it's just some yellow rock, but then his eyes go wide as he realizes it's something far more valuable. Completely stunned, he shoots up from his chair. He cautiously approaches and asks if he can get a closer look. As he holds it, he can feel the immense energy pouring out of it, the kind that could even boost a cultivator's training. This thing is a rare treasure indeed. He immediately introduces himself as Zhu, the heir to the Xian auction house. Returning the greeting, our hero says his name is Chu King. Intrigued, Zhu asks him just how many of these stones he has and what exactly they're called. Chu King calls it a spiritual stone, adding that a man like Zhu probably already knows its effects. He then reveals he has 5 of them. Without hesitation, Zhu offers 200,000 yen for each stone, making for a grand total of 1 million yen. A short time later, our hero walks out of the shop, thinking that the trip was totally worth it, since the price was even higher than he'd hoped. He starts thinking that if his plans pan out, he could build a serious business monopoly. He figures it's only a matter of time before he causes a massive storm that will completely shake up the entire martial arts auction world. Just then, his phone buzzes. It's a message from a girl inviting him out to a bar that night. As he's looking at it, he glances to the side and spots a mysterious figure lurking nearby. The person is wearing a long trench coat and is holding a gleaming knife. Without warning, the figure lunges straight for our protagonist. Reacting in a split second, he activates his sword formation with the activating his power. He successfully parries the knife attack. The impressed assailant jumps back, demanding to know what kind of power this is. The hero immediately counters, charging forward with a surge of energy. He delivers a fatal blow with his spiritual sword. The man goes down without a fight. At that moment, rain starts to fall as he presses his blade on the man's shoulder, forcing him to submit. With an icy stare, he demands to know who sent him. Terrified, the man confesses that Li Yue hired him to eliminate the protagonist. He admits Li told him Chu was just a weak student, but now he sees that was a total lie. Hearing this, our hero just smirks. Without a second of hesitation, he finishes the man off. As he leaves, he tells the corpse to relax because his employer will be by to collect him later. Walking away from the scene, he seethes with anger, deciding it's time to put an end to the Li family. However, he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his chest and wonders what's happening. Leaning against a wall, he realizes his body is on fire, and it's the first time he's ever struggled to control his own power. To make things worse, his vision starts to fade to black. Chu stumbles along the wall with great difficulty, and then he wonders how in the world he got to this place. Some time passes, and he finds himself heading toward Hugh's house. By the looks of him, the protagonist seems completely drunk. Without thinking, he pulls her into a tight embrace. Flustered, the girl asks what he's doing. He responds with a kiss. As he presses her against the wall, a strange pink energy starts to radiate from both of them. Afterwards, he apologizes, wondering why he felt such an intense pull towards her. He questions if it's because he just took a life, someone in this world before. After their kiss, the girl just pulls him into an embrace. With a smile, she tells him he'd better apologize and not to hold anything back. And just like that, the two of them share a very close moment. A little later, he's lying on the couch with her on top of him. Lying there, he thinks about how he didn't want to get tangled up in this world's affairs, but he's starting to realize some things are just totally out of his hands, and now he has this woman. A smirk crosses his face as, the next day at school, our hero is totally passed out at his desk when Tang walks into the classroom looking for chewing. Hearing his name, he slowly lifts his head. The pink-haired girl comes over, telling him he shouldn't be sleeping and that he should grab lunch with her. Completely caught off guard, our hero wonders why all the women in this world are so darn forward. But then, Tang notices something odd. Leaning in closer to our hero, she asks why he smells like another woman. Feeling the pressure, the guy squirms uncomfortably in his seat. Switching gears, Tang asks where he wants to eat. Still feeling super awkward, our protagonist gets up and says he's ready to go. He breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he's lucky the girl isn't going to investigate further, because if she found out he spent the night with a different girl, she'd flip out, which would be a total disaster. Meanwhile, out in the corridor, his friend is wondering if he's dreaming, seeing as both Tang and Zen are inviting Chewing to lunch. As they walk through the school, our guy is still a bit suspicious, so he asks Tang why she invited him out all of a sudden. In response, she just says she wanted to eat with him. Then, she gets curious and asks if she can hug him now. Our hero coldly thinks to himself that she wasn't shy about asking, which makes it way less interesting. Thinking fast, he grabs her hand, making her completely flustered. Seeing the girl's reaction, he just chuckles and pinches her cheek, but she pulls away, irritated, asking how he dares to do that. Our hero, she laughs, clearly overjoyed. Watching Tang, she wonders why her heart suddenly feels so warm, a feeling she's never experienced before, especially having been raised in such a strict environment. But ever since she saw him on the basketball court, she's found herself developing these incredible feelings for him, to the point where he's become the most important person in her world. She admits to herself that she feels completely safe when she's with him, covering her face in embarrassment. The girl wonders why she's having all these crazy thoughts. Later, outside of school, they're at some kind of diner. Our hero gets the waitress's attention, ordering 2 bowls of noodles, no cilantro, but with extra chili and vinegar. Stunned, Tang asks how he knew her exact order, questioning if he's been spying on her. A bit surprised himself, the protagonist just asks why her face is so red. At that very moment, 2 women approach, eyeing them intently. The boy's instincts kick in, and he immediately feels suspicious. He then spots knives hidden under their shirts. Just then, his order is called. As he gets up to grab their food, one of the women gives a subtle signal to her partner. They both spring to their feet, knives already drawn. The woman with the braids lunges at Tang, aiming to strike her from behind. However, she gets a face full of hot noodles instead. The protagonist yelps, having burned himself on the scalding soup. Her companion doesn't quit, though, and goes right after Tang. But our hero dives in the way, taking the stab that was meant for his girl. Seeing this, Tang is frozen in pure shock. Enraged, the hero begins to radiate a massive amount of energy, blasting the woman and sending her flying. However, her partner is still standing. Worried sick, Tang tells the protagonist to run since she's the target, but Chu declares he won't leave her behind and charges straight toward the woman with the braids. She counters with a kick, but the protagonist dodges it effortlessly. Now furious, he channels all his energy into his fist. He lands a devastating blow, sending her soaring through the air. But then, the short-haired woman appears behind our hero for a sneak attack. Using her full strength, she smacks him on the back. He glances back with a terrifying look, revealing the attack barely left a scratch. He then hits her too, sending her flying and decisively ending the battle. Both assassins were utterly defeated and left seriously injured. Nervously, Tang asks if he's from a family that practices ancient martial arts. In response, Chu says no, adding that it's a little hard to explain, but he's really just an ordinary person. Taking her hand, he explains that he'll tell her everything later, but for now, they need to get out of there, because this place isn't safe, and they should call her family to deal with the 2 attackers. Outside the restaurant, Tang is helping support the protagonist. He clearly has a nasty wound on his body. Still worried about the situation, she suggests taking him to the hospital. Smiling, Chu tells her not to worry, claiming he can heal a small wound like this himself. Looking thoughtful, he considers that while the 2 were second-rate assassins, they still managed to hurt him as if they were using some kind of enchanted weapons, so he'll have to be more careful next time. At that moment, Tang tells Chu it seems he's already done his research on her family. Curious, she asks if Lai or Wei hired them and if he's in danger. Confidently, the boy says no. He assures her that he can more than handle people like them, so there's nothing to worry about now that she's seen his true power. Caught off guard by his confidence, the girl gets a little flustered. She awkwardly asks him why he saved her. Just as uncomfortable, our hero replies that he doesn't really know, all while thinking he can't just tell her she was his girlfriend in another life. She then admits that, honestly, it feels like he's known her forever, like he'd do anything for her, even lay down his life. Hearing that, the purple-haired girl is left completely speechless. He keeps going, explaining that as long as she puts her trust in him, he'll help her out. He finishes by saying he knows her family has been hitting some rough patches lately. Tang then explains that her family is renowned for their medical skills and pharmaceutical plants. But about a month ago, their family's secret formula was stolen, and at the same time, other families ganged up to try and run them out of business. She reveals that they've been digging around and found out that the Leaf family is pulling all the strings. With a grim look, our protagonist thinks to himself, the Leaf family again. Not only are they trying to ruin the Tangs, but they're also keeping a close eye on them. He wonders if they have any idea what they're getting into. Grabbing her by the shoulders, he asks if she would believe him if he told her he could solve all her family's problems. Impressed, she asks, "You can really do that?" Tang just smiles and replies that it's simple. All they need to do is create a brand new refinement formula. But Tang quickly adds that it's way easier said than done. Her family has dozens of research labs all over the city, and even with all that, it took them 20 years just to develop a few formulas. Our hero tells her not to sweat it and says they'll figure it out later. He lets her know that there's going to be a lightning storm in 2 days, and after that, his family will finally be off his back. That'll be the perfect time to get into the details. All of a sudden, he clutches his chest in pain. Worried, Tang rushes over, asking him what's wrong. In that instant, our hero remembers he marked Ye with a REI and wonders if the mark can just disappear like that. Saying a quick goodbye, he tells Tang he's got to run and will head back to school. He asks her to tell Ling Dong to make his excuses to the teacher for him. He immediately calls Hua, telling her it looks like Yi Chang is in some deep trouble and asks if they can track her phone and send him the location. On the other end, the girl says she's on it and will send the coordinates right away. Next, he calls Zhu, introduces himself as Chu, and explains the situation. The attendant asks if he's got something valuable to offer. Chu says no, explaining that he just needs a ride fast. The man asks for his location and promises to pick him up, quickly excusing himself from his clients, saying something urgent came up and announcing that the auction house is closing for the day. A little while later, Chu is sitting shotgun in a Lamborghini. Inside the car, he notices that Yi Chang's location has changed again. He shows the driver the new spot on his phone and says they need to get there now. The attendant just tells him to hang on tight and, using some kind of insane power, floors it, making the car lurch forward. At that exact moment, our boy activates his special vision. With this power, he can see right through solid objects and spots Yi Chang passed out in the back of a moving van. Chu points and tells the driver, "That's the one we need to stop." The attendant slams on the gas, swerving the car right in front of the van, forcing it to slam on the brakes and crash straight into a wall. Our protagonist hops out of the car to check out the scene. Two armed goons, looking pretty banged up, stumble out of the wrecked van just as our hero approaches with his glowing sword, immediately grabbing their full attention. They're yelling to open fire, but our hero moves like lightning, effortlessly cutting them down with his enchanted blade. In a single, fluid motion, both thugs hit the deck. The protagonist heads for the van to pry it open, but just then, a sort of sixth sense screams at him. Out of nowhere, a mysterious figure zaps him with a bolt of lightning. Our hero narrowly dodges the blast, but the van erupts in flames. At that moment, two men who look like they've stepped out of a time machine show up. Surprised, the hero realizes this isn't a power normal people have, and he recalls that in this world, finding someone else who practices ancient swordplay like him is incredibly rare. That's when one of the men pipes up, saying the kid is young and full of talent, and invites him to join the Quanon cult. In response, our hero just smirks, saying he's heard of them, but wonders why this cult seems to churn out nothing but losers like the two he just dealt with. Irritated, the man turns to his companion about the word loser, stating that his brother shouldn't be talking to this punk, he should be ending him for insulting their master and themselves, maintaining his cool. Our hero questions how a couple of shallow wannabes like them even dare to come down from the mountain and suggests they should crawl back up there and train for a few more years. This statement leaves the two brothers completely speechless. The one in the green kimono absolutely loses it and draws his weapon. Charging forward, he screams, questioning how the boy has the nerve to insult him and his brother, declaring he's going to end him. However, our hero is ready, deflecting the blow with his magical sword. The man in the green kimono stumbles back, only to see his weapon is now cracked. Even more furious, he demands to know how the boy dared to damage his precious weapon. Our hero then presses his advantage with his sword, declaring he's about to shatter it. The man's staff splinters even more, and moments later, it breaks completely. Pouring more energy into his attack, he charges again, screaming that the boy can go to hell. However, with a flash of his magical sword, Chu completely neutralizes the man, severing one of his arms. Seeing this, his brother watches in pure horror. Wielding some kind of large brush, the brother roars, questioning how he dared to harm his sibling. He then unleashes a massive wave of energy, powerful enough to create a huge explosion. However, the protagonist uses the injured brother as a human shield. With a cruel grin, he shoves his first opponent aside, telling the remaining brother that if he's going to make a move, he better do it right. He scoffs that the man shouldn't be coming down the mountain just to snatch a girl and asks if that's how Taoists in this world really operate. Absolutely livid, the man in the blue kimono swears that the boy is going to die today. He launches himself through the air toward him, but just then, Shu materializes right behind him, runs him through with his sword. In total disbelief, the man wonders how this is even possible, while Kai remarks that their master definitely played them for fools. After the fight, several bodies are left defeated on the ground near the burning wreckage. At that moment, our hero notices that she's still breathing. He gently taps her cheek, telling her to wake up. The girl stirs, annoyed, and just glares at him. As he gets closer, she asks what he's even doing there, commenting that those two guys were way too strong and she couldn't take them, so she had to bail. However, our hero just moves in closer to her and pulls her into a hug. He tells her not to worry and that there's no need to be scared anymore, because everything is all right now. Just then, she finally notices all the defeated men lying on the ground around them and takes a startled step back, asks if she knows who is behind all this. She responds that she has a strong hunch it might be the work of the Li family, especially since the two families have officially gone to war. Hearing this, our hero thinks it's no surprise that the Li family is finally making a move, and he assumes they're in cahoots with the masters on the mountain, having forged some kind of agreement. She then explains that these masters are no ordinary people. They're men with immense power, just like the ones who captured her. She then states that she's positive they don't belong to an ancient martial arts family, because during the attack, Their breathing didn't even waver. Surprised, Shangqi comments that she can't underestimate these men any longer. Chu agrees, but says that with her family's current situation, they shouldn't get too optimistic. Annoyed, the girl retorts, saying it's not just the Li family. There are also smaller families and other individuals who are going to stir up trouble. Starting to connect the dots, our hero asks if this has something to do with the X-auction and if that might be the reason all the ancient martial arts families have been so active lately. Nodding in agreement, the girl says it's possible the Li family got some advance information about the auction, which explains the attacks on other families. But since the other families didn't get the same intel, they're completely unprepared. Then, giving our hero a kiss, she tells him he's her lucky star. A little embarrassed, she asks if he can go home with her since she needs to get back and share this news with the rest of the family. Besides, she says, her mother has been looking for him to thank him personally. In response, he just playfully ruffles her hair and, with a smile, agrees to go with her. Later that night, over at the Chu family's home, the aunts, alongside Shini's mother, are all gathered around a table, their eyes locked on Shini and Chu. With a welcoming smile, the mother invites Chu to have a seat. However, one of the aunts cuts in, telling him to hold on a second, which instantly sours the mood. The aunt then states that it's completely inappropriate for an outsider to be present at a private family meeting, gesturing directly at Chu. She then adds that, on top of everything, he's a man. Unfazed, Chu just smiles and tells her to relax, assuring her he's not there to crash their council meeting. He finishes by saying he didn't come for her little secret get-together. At that moment, the mother thinks to herself that she might have been a bit careless, as she was hoping to use this chance to solidify the marriage arrangement with Xinyi, but now that seems completely impossible. Revealing a magical stone, Chu announces he actually came to cooperate, then casually tosses the stone over to the aunt who was just complaining. After examining it, she admits it doesn't look like a fake, while her sister asks what it is. Chu explains that it's a spiritual stone, elaborating that if she holds it, she'll be able to feel the flow of her inner power through her body. The moment the mother holds the stone, she feels the energy surge. In fact, her own power is so immense that she unleashes a massive wave of energy from her body. The other women in the room look on with alarm, but the mother just smiles, asking how many of these stones he has, and declaring that she wants to buy every single one if the price is right. The protagonist, however, clarifies that the spiritual stones aren't for direct sale. This immediately irritates one of the aunts, who accuses Xinyi and her little boyfriend of just playing games with them. She demands he finish his explanation, and he states that the item will be appraised in 2 days, with its price being based on the results of an auction. He adds that if they're interested, he can offer them a discount, but that wasn't the only reason he came. Chu then offers them something else: specialized protective gear and an elixir that can provide a short-term boost to their combat effectiveness. The mention of increased combat power immediately piques their interest, and one of the women asks just how much of an improvement it offers. Chu responds that it's about a 30% boost. Shang-Chi's mother then asks about the production time and what the price might be. He explains that the gear can be manufactured within days, and he'll let them decide on a fair price. As for the elixir, it takes about a week to produce, and the price will be determined after the first batch is delivered. Still skeptical, one of the aunts asks why he's helping them out like this. Chu simply responds that he's doing it because Ye Shangchai is his friend. Hearing this makes her feel a little embarrassed but also incredibly happy. A while later, the two of them are standing outside the house, smiling. Shanghai admits she initially just wanted to have some fun with him, but they ended up becoming real friends, and now he's even helped her entire family. Smiling to himself, Chu thinks that life in this world has been totally worth it. He figures that after the auction, and with her family's support, he'll finally be able to start building his own empire and gym. Later on, he arrives back at his own house, calling out for his mom and dad. As he enters, however, he notices an unexpected guest. It's his aunt, Chu Kingi. The boy greets her politely, though he's completely baffled, having never heard about any other relatives. Getting straight to the point, his aunt remarks on how handsome he is before announcing she's there to arrange his marriage. Completely stunned, the protagonist asks what in the world she's talking about, pointing out that he's only 17 and still a minor. He adds that he's still in school and that any talk of marriage should wait until after he's graduated from college, but the aunt scoffs, wondering what kind of man would even want to go to a university, calling it a total waste of money. Getting ticked off, our hero has to remind himself that this is a world run by women. Switching topics, the aunt then asks his mother where Chio is, and she just says Chio's at home, not really doing anything. Hearing this, our hero thinks to himself that his sister is probably just passed out asleep right now. With a smug smirk, the aunt remarks what a pity it is that their family's parenting style isn't like hers. She goes on about how her own children, unlike theirs, are actually well-mannered. The father stands up, saying they need to talk, and offers to go prepare some tea. Looking back, our hero can't help but notice his dad looks completely defeated. Fed up, he mutters that the old hag has said more than enough and jokes about shutting her up for good. The The aunt just turns to his mother and asks what she ever saw in a man like that, saying she should have married into the prestigiously family from Heike instead. Right then, our hero slams a metal pipe down hard on the table, startling both of them. With a look that could kill, he apologizes, claiming he just saw a bug on the table. The aunt then says she expects an answer by next time, warning them there will be consequences if they fail to provide one. As she's heading out, she tells Chu to enjoy his last year of school, hinting that he's not far from being married off. Mockingly, the protagonist fires back, asking why on earth he should listen to a word she says. In response, she reveals his family is planning to marry him off to some rich woman to fix their money problems. Crossing his arms, the kid gives a fake apology, saying he's not for sale, at least not that cheap. Knowing this woman has deep pockets, he asks how much she's willing to cough up for one of his legs. Totally frustrated, the old woman tells her sister to get the boy to a hospital because he's obviously lost his mind. Annoyed, he just bails on the conversation and locks himself in his bedroom. Once inside, he calls up Shiny, telling her they need to talk about something important soon. Leaves the room and holes up in his bedroom. Once inside, he gives Shiny a call, saying they need to talk about something. A little later, the old woman is seen with two guys who work in the Dummen nightlife industry. One of them walks up and asks if the plan is just to take the woman's leg. Singu chimes in, saying they should snag a kidney, too. Meanwhile, Shuing is levitating a bunch of stones with his powers. He's holding one in particular, which is glowing with a powerful aura. The young man reflects that the RE situation in gym has finally stabilized, even though he's still dealing with some family drama. But hey, at least he has the time to forge some magical artifacts to keep his loved ones safe. All of a sudden, the stone morphs into a stiletto, which zips right over to one of the other green stones. The target stone flares with a bright light, and the stiletto is violently thrown back. Our hero thinks to himself that the material he got from Zhao is actually pretty decent. He can use it to store an entire arsenal of protective swords that can even sense when their owner is in trouble. Over at Chu King's house, the family is having dinner. His father tells him he needs to hit the books and study hard. After a moment of silence, the brown-haired boy replies that his dad shouldn't worry about it, promising he'll always be around to support his parents. The man comments that their health is what truly matters, more than any amount of money. Ching agrees and then reveals that he made them something. He places a couple of beautiful jade necklaces on the table for his father and his sister. His family members pick up the items, looking a bit confused. The protagonist's father asks where on earth he got the material and why it feels so pleasant to the touch. His son explains that he brought it from the temple and mentions they probably have some beneficial effects. The next day at school, Chu King is sitting in class. He's realizing that his mortal body isn't handling the exhaustion from crafting magical artifacts all that well. The blue-haired girl sitting behind him whispers a warning not to fall asleep. However, she quickly clams up when the teacher starts walking over to them. The instructor firmly taps her hand on Chu King's desk. She tells the boy to go solve the problem on the board if he's so well rested. The protagonist, who hadn't been paying a lick of attention, has no idea how to solve the calculations. But then, he remembers that Zan had actually taught him something very similar to this before. Filled with newfound confidence, he starts writing on the board. Chu King puts down the chalk and informs the teacher he's done. The teacher is completely floored, wondering how he could possibly solve it so fast, especially with his reputation for napping in class. But she then remarks that he can't sleep in her class even if he already knows the material. The brown-haired boy thinks back on how he was a pretty pathetic student his whole life and realizes the teacher has never treated him this nicely before. She then suggests he should become the class representative. Ching immediately tries to protest, but the teacher gives him a look and menacingly asks if he has any objections. Slumped over his desk, he uses his powers and thinks about the amulets he promised his family. Realizing he needs to get on that soon, he forms a tiny sword in his hand, remembering that magical amulets can block attacks. He figures their street value should be at least 30,000 yen, maybe even more. A chubby kid taps our protagonist on the shoulder and asks if he wants to go grab a bite to eat. At that exact moment, the tiny amulet Chu King was crafting suddenly explodes. His friend freaks out, asking how he's playing with fire inside the classroom. Ching's miniature weapon turns into a charred little sword. He hands it over to his buddy, telling him that this will keep him safe, but he warns him that nobody can ever know about it. The young man who tapped his shoulder is overcome with emotion, declaring that Chu King is without a doubt his best friend and says he wants to give him something in return. He proudly holds up a small bottle of soda. Our protagonist's face falls, completely annoyed. His soda's already half gone, but his buddy has something to tell him. Turns out, the sports festival is coming up in just a few days. His friend asks if Chu Xing wants to join in, especially since he totally schooled the #1 basketball player. The brown-haired boy reveals he's going to sit this one out. His companion warns him that the video of that match has already gone viral and they're definitely going to pressure him to play. Finally, he asks if Chu Xing seriously doesn't want to make some memories during his last year. Chu Xing thinks his friend has a point, especially since he skipped out on it in his past life. He decides he's in. he'll attend the festival. The chubby guy is thrilled because this means he can go chow down. Chu Xing asks if he was betting on it, but his friend flat out denies it. Just then, a girl with peach-colored hair walks into the classroom. Other students start whispering, wondering if she's Lin Yuan, the school's superstar who plays piano and sings. She walks right up to Chu Xing, saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other. Lin Yuan says he's become quite the school celebrity after taking down Tang Zhen. Our protagonist just says it was pure luck. She then tells him their old middle school crew is having a reunion and asks who he thinks organized it. He immediately guesses, is it Zikan? The girl is shocked he figured it out. Chu Xing just says Zikan always loves being the center of attention. Lin Yuan asks if he'll still come, complaining it'll be super boring otherwise. The young man asks when it is. The girl says it's tomorrow night and that she'll call him. Then, she playfully pinches one of his cheeks. As she leaves, Lin Yuan says that every time she sees Chu Xing, he seems better and better. No wonder Tang Zhen is so hung up on him. Lin Yuan leaves the classroom, and Chu Xing wonders when she got so bold as to tease him. His blue-haired friend asks why he's so chummy with the peach-haired girl. The protagonist explains they were classmates back in middle and elementary school. The other boy declares that Lin Yuan is his goddess and that he absolutely needs her autograph. Chu Xing asks his friend why he didn't just ask for it while she was right there. He replies that he would never have the guts, but if he could spend just one day with her, he could die a happy man. Chu Xing leaves the room, saying he has something to take care of. A girl with purple hair is in her classroom reading a book. Our protagonist approaches her and asks if she's working on homework. The young woman looks up, admiring his face for a moment. She admits that the assignment is really difficult. Blushing, the boy says he cannot help her out since it's the same problem he solved earlier in class. Chu Xing starts explaining it to her, as the purple-haired girl finally gets the task thanks to his method. Suddenly, a crowd starts to form around them, and our protagonist realizes this is the worst possible time for a scene. He quickly stands up, grabs her hand, and says he needs to talk to her about something. Next thing you know, they're out in the school courtyard. Chuting puts something in her hand, telling her to use it to keep herself safe. The young woman looks down at the necklace he just gave her and instantly recognizes that the pendant is incredibly rare. She tries to give it back to him, insisting she can't possibly accept something so valuable, but the brown-haired boy tells her it's meant to keep her safe and asks her to please just trust him on this. His friend gets a little choked up and thanks him. Later, our protagonist is sitting in another class, thinking he needs to craft at least 10 more amulets before heading home. Keeping his hands hidden under the desk, he secretly continues his magical work, crafting artifacts. As soon as the bell rings, the boy quickly packs up his materials, thinking to himself that he still needs to go see Ich Chenny She tonight to figure out just how much he can provide for his family. Suddenly, a hand claps onto Chu King's shoulder. It's his blue-haired buddy asking if they're planning on heading out tonight. Our hero asks where to, and his colleague hints at a place that's supposedly gorgeous and a total blast. Chewing ducks out of the room, telling him he has to pass this time, and that's when Chenyi ambushes him with a hug. She breathes out, saying he's finally here. But in the next moment, the dark-haired girl's nose twitches. She's picked up the scent of another woman and immediately asks if he's been getting friendly with someone else. Chewing, trying to deflect, tells her to just drop it and quickly shows the girl the necklace he crafted just for her, making it clear it's a gift, no charge. Chen Yi eyes the craftsmanship for a moment when suddenly, a white object comes zipping through the air straight at her. Startled, the young woman instinctively throws up her own amulet, which instantly materializes a shimmering purple shield in the air. Chewing steps closer, explaining that the necklace will activate on its own anytime she's in danger. A huge grin spreads across her face, and next thing you know, she's shoving him onto the bed, exclaiming that this is really awesome. She warns him not to think he can get away just because he gave her a gift, and makes it crystal clear that if she ever finds out he's with someone else, she's going to make him regret it. He gently places a hand on her cheek and eases her down onto the bed, revealing that he has to go, but promises he'll be back in a few days. Later, at Hao's apartment, Chewing lets himself in, noticing she forgot to lock the door again. His sister is fast asleep on the couch. As he gets closer, he sees tears streaming down her face. She must be having a nightmare. The little, pink-haired girl stirs and wakes up. She immediately latches onto her brother, sobbing that she dreamed about their mother again and how she didn't want her or their dad. Chu King's sister looks up at him, her eyes filled with fear, and asks if he's going to leave her too. The question hits him hard, as he thinks that maybe, one day, he really might have to return to his own world. He gently strokes her hair and promises he would never do that. She sniffles, revealing that it's better for him if he doesn't, realizes he'd better head home since it's the weekend, and his dad will flip if he finds out he wasn't there all night. As he reaches for his phone, his hand accidentally bumps the mouse. Curious, he glances at the computer screen and realizes it's displaying a ton of information about some ancient martial arts family. He looks over at his sleeping sister, a thought dawning on him that she must have helped him gather all this research. Before he leaves, He places a protective amulet next to her and gives her a quick kiss on the forehead. The young man is walking down the street when he gets a call from his father. The old man immediately demands to know where he is, threatening to send his mother to drag him home. Chewing quickly says he's just near the shopping center, and right on cue, the car pulls up for him to get in. Chu-Ching remarks on how fast his mom got there, and she just says she was in the neighborhood. She then takes one look at him, and her expression darkens. The brown-haired boy explains he was just at a party with his colleagues and that there were a ton of people there, thinking to himself how a woman's sense of smell is just insane. His mother then whips out a pack of cigarettes, warning him that he better not have been alone with that woman. Chu-Ching says he knows, then asks if she wasn't supposed to have quit smoking. His mom brushes it off, saying this is to mask the scent, and to avoid a thrashing from his father. Pinching his nose, the protagonist thanks her sarcastically. A notification then dings on his phone. Ching sees that a magical amulet was sold to the Yi family for 1.2 million. He realizes he can make an absolute fortune. With his knowledge from the immortal realm, he just needs to create something even more valuable. He feels like his big break is right around the corner. Back at home, his dad asks him to be his little spy and let him know if his mother starts smoking again. The protagonist just grins and says he's on his dad's team all the way. Later, Chu-Ching messages Jiu, asking if he's free to come grab something. The man replies that right now is perfect. Soon after, the two friends are meeting at a restaurant, with Jiu holding the amulet. He inspects it and declares that it's incredible, worth at least 10 million. The brown-haired young man just says he already knows what it is, so there's no need for Jiu to waste his breath explaining. His new friend realizes Chu-Ching must have looked into him. Jiu raises a glass of wine, but the white-haired man slams his mug on the table, revealing this is the first time anyone has ever actually wanted to be his friend. Chu-Ching asks him what he's talking about. Jiu explains that he grew up with his father until he was a teenager. That's when he found out his mother was from a super rich family, and after that, he was shipped off to an elite school. But all the other students treated him like an outcast, and one girl he had just met even asked if he was a legitimate son. He asks his companion if he knows what it's like to always feel like a freak and never fit in with the upper crust. Even though he'd spent the last few years mastering all the same skills, he was always missing out. In their eyes, he was probably always going to be an outsider. Chu-Ching admits he doesn't have the same problems, but he totally gets where he's coming from. His own mother is from a prominent family that didn't approve of her relationship with his dad, forced them to elope. And just recently, his mom's side of the family started pressuring his parents, saying they were going to marry Chu-Ching off to some woman, an overweight woman, to be specific, weighing more than 90 kilograms. Jiu just bursts out laughing, apologizing because he can't stop himself. Honestly, the protagonist was pretty much expecting that reaction. The white-haired man suggests that the two of them should just get wasted together. The new friends toast, and Jiu wishes him good luck handling his hefty bride-to-be. A very drunk Chu-Ching stumbles up the stairs of his building. A girl with short hair opens the door to his apartment. She jumps when he throws his arms around her. He quickly covers her mouth and asks if she wants to wake up their parents. The girl declares that if he keeps this up, he's never going to get married, coming home drunk like this. But just moments later, she starts feeling dizzy. She collapses right into Chu-Ching's arms. Next thing we see, she's lying on a bed. At this point, the boy thinks he can't take it anymore and leans in close. The brown-haired young man thinks about how good and soft she feels. Suddenly, the short-haired girl murmurs for someone named Xiao Fang not to be shy. Chu-Ching, sitting right beside her, has no idea who this Xiao Fang guy is. The girl then moves closer to the boy, about to kiss him. Our protagonist, however, is completely stunned, thinking he can't possibly go through with this. As he walks into a clothing boutique, a sales associate immediately takes notice. Spotting his handsome features, he tells her to bag up all the best outfits and have them delivered to his place. The young man figures that now that he's got the clothes for the class reunion, he's going to need a sweet ride to really make an impression. Suddenly, someone calls out his name from behind. It's a guy decked out in flashy jewelry, asking if Chu-Ching seriously doesn't recognize him, calling him an old classmate. Chu-Ching immediately recognizes him. It's Jokin. His old classmate smirks, asking if our hero got tired of being a shut-in and if he's actually planning to show his face at the class reunion. Chu-Ching confirms he'll be there, mentioning that Lin Wan personally invited him, which makes Jokin sneer that he'll be waiting for him. Jokin storms off, fuming, and honestly, Chu-Ching isn't too happy either. Later, when our hero arrives at the reunion, some students call out to him, "Ugh, what a nasty memory from his school days." Another girl taunts him, saying he might look innocent, but he's probably a total creep on the inside. After starting high school, Chu-Ching realized he was an outcast all because of Ju Boken, who spread all sorts of lies about him. He figures tonight is just another chance for Ju to try and bully him again. A salesperson calls out to the brown-haired young man, telling him to check out the discounted cars in the showroom. A woman presents a car, but the kid doesn't seem too impressed with the small, red sports model. He asks if they have a more masculine-looking model he could buy. In the end, Chu-Ching picks a car, and the salesperson brings over the invoice. The store employees start whispering that the kid buying the car is handsome and must have a rich sugar mama since he's obviously underage. Chu Ching thinks it's ridiculous, they just assume he couldn't have earned the money himself. On the night of the party, he pulls up in his new car, only to find himself at the very restaurant where he once ate with Zi Xiaoyu. He steps inside and immediately notices the chaotic scene. Taking a deep breath, he braces himself for the night, is already there. A guy with brown hair wonders aloud where Lin Wan is. A girl next to him says she has no idea, but adds that Jokin's bet that Chu Ching would show up in his old school uniform is officially lost, meaning he'll have to buy everyone dinner for a full week at a restaurant. The protagonist smirks, thinking Jokan must be a real idiot, since he literally saw him buying new clothes and still went ahead with that stupid bet. A group of guys is gathered around Jokin, who looks absolutely furious. The girl with purple hair whispers that maybe Jokin just didn't believe Chu Ching could actually afford to buy new clothes. Our hero turns around and casually reminds his rival that he's on the hook to pay for everyone's meals for a whole week, and that includes his. Just then, Jokan, still dripping with jewelry, loudly assures everyone that he'll cover all the meals for the next 7 days, and the crowd goes wild. But even so, Jokan is still seething with rage. The girl remarks that Jokan is trying to play it cool by locking in the bet, but it's still going to cost him a fortune. The brown-haired guy muses that it was Jokan's own dumb fault for starting the bet and losing. As the students are all enjoying some drinks, a guy named Yuav suddenly announces that he's putting together a men's basketball team for the upcoming city tournament and asks if Chu Ching wants to join the squad. Our young man flatly replies that he's not interested. The purple-haired girl, Tang Jan, then teases him, asking if he thinks the rest of them are just so-so players. He gets a bit flustered, completely speechless for a moment. Tang Jan then declares that they should all put aside their personal beef and just focus on winning. Jokin pipes up, saying he doesn't have a problem with anyone, but he's not so sure about Chu Ching. Tang Jan turns to him, asking for his opinion. In response, our hero simply raises a piece of grilled meat and says that he thinks everything is absolutely perfect, offering the delicious morsel to her. Tang Jan looks surprised for a second, then breaks into a smile as she leans forward to take the bite. Jokan, watching from the side, looks completely irritated. Tang Jan then asks if her classmate will finally join the place basketball team. The protagonist agrees, but on one condition. She has to give him a kiss. She immediately offers him a real French kiss. Chu Ching tells her to close her eyes, and then he leans in and kisses her. After, Tang Jan promises him a special reward if he helps them win the whole competition. Their classmates start shouting that if Tang Jan doesn't treat them all, they won't approve of and her new boyfriend. The girl laughs and says that's not a problem, and Chu Ching chimes in, declaring he's the one who's going to win Tang Jan's heart. To prove it, he invites the entire group out for dessert at a fancy restaurant nearby. Naturally, everyone cheers at the invitation. Tang Jan leans in and asks if he's really sure he can treat everyone, and he just smirks, asking if she really thinks he can't afford it. Our hero then gently pats her on the head and says he could never disappoint her. Tang Jan smiles, commenting that he's certainly acting like a real man now. He's got more fans than any of the girls here. Jukan's convinced he should be the star of this whole gathering. Anyway, all the students head over to the first bowl of the restaurant for dessert. Tang Jan remarks on how delicious the food is. Chu Ching spots Luan walking in and asks if she's finally done with her work. The girl, barely giving him a glance, says she had something super important to take care of and couldn't get there any sooner. She walks right past him and over to Chu Ching. The protagonist smirks, telling her it's pretty rude to keep him waiting. Luan explains that her company insisted she record a video, leaving her no choice. Chu Ching teases her, asking if she's getting ready for her big debut. One of the students points out that the hired pianist didn't show up, suggesting Jukin could play for everyone instead. The guy proudly announces that he's passed level 6 in piano and says things would get really interesting if Luan showed off some of her dance moves too. Luan agrees, saying she doesn't mind at all. Then, she dedicates the dance to her best friend, extending a hand toward Chu Ching. The other students start whispering about how thrilled Chu Ching must be, and the girls decide to pitch in and help, even if they don't have any real artistic talent themselves. Jukan starts pounding the keys angrily while Luan begins to dance. Chu Ching, the brown-haired guy, comments that the kid actually plays the piano pretty well. Tang Jan asks if he doesn't think the dance is way better. He just smirks and asks if she's getting jealous. His girlfriend points out that Luan is dancing just for him, so he better not disappoint her. Meanwhile, the pianist is watching the whole scene from his piano bench. He's absolutely furious that the protagonist is ignoring a dance performed in his honor just to chat with another girl. He slams his hand on the piano keys and shoots to his feet. Jukan demands to know if Chu Ching has any idea what respect is. The protagonist coolly replies that whether he listens or not is his own business, so Jukan shouldn't jump to conclusions. The pianist snaps back that Chu Ching should be paying attention to Luan, not arguing with him. Chu Ching stands up. He drains the last of the wine from his glass. The peach-haired girl cracks a smile. She gives a slight bow. Jukin sneers that Chu Ching is just some poor kid who doesn't even know the etiquette for watching a performance. The protagonist just scoffs that the music was terrible anyway and whistles a far superior tune, then declares that if he played that badly, he would have cut off his own hands. The infuriated pianist orders him to kneel and apologize immediately. Chu Ching just says the pianist can say goodbye to his hands. Lin Wan is completely shocked. Then, the protagonist begins to whistle, and the melody mesmerizes everyone in the room. Some of the girls even recognize the song. The guy with the chains on his jeans feels like he's been transported to a field of flowers. It's in that moment the hero remembers this is the true song of the gods, a melody he learned in his past life. A few classmates start whispering that it's the first time they've ever heard a song so beautiful, and that their classmate, Jukan, is completely doomed. The guy is startled by Chu Ching's malicious glare. He starts to tremble as a menacing shadow seems to rise from his enemy. Suddenly, a hand appears in front of him. It's Lin Wan, stepping in to protect her classmate. The protagonist asks her if she really wants him to forgive Jukan. The girl looks incredibly uncomfortable. Tang Jian tells her boyfriend to stop terrorizing the pianist, warning him that if he keeps this up, there will be trouble. The brown-haired young man thinks to himself that a moment ago, the heavenly music had amplified his rage, making him forget he wasn't in the heavens anymore. He snatches a dessert knife from the table and points it at Jukan, who stammers, asking what he's doing. A flurry of shadowy blows flashes through the air. A moment later, it's revealed that the strikes were just to cut the pianist's hair. Jukan panics, touching his newly shortened hair, and then flinches as the dessert knife clatters to the floor beside him. Chu Ching states that he's no longer the person who was a total pushover back then, and he hopes his old classmate remembers it. Jia Pan asks if he isn't taking things a little too far. The hero declares that even if Jia had gotten on his knees and begged, he still wouldn't have let it go, adding that the only people he kneels for are his parents. Right after that, Chuing tells him to get lost, saying he never wants to see his face again. The guy with all the chains finally takes off, after a tense stare-down. Our hero then says they should celebrate getting rid of such an annoying pest. The classmates get back to the party. Tamjan comments that her boyfriend is becoming more and more of a mystery. Chuan tells his girlfriend that she'll find out who he really is soon enough. He then gets in his car to head home, wondering how he's going to explain smelling like stale beer. Just then, his sister calls. He tells her he won't be making it home tonight and asks her to cook up an excuse for their parents. At first, she refuses to lie for him, but she quickly changes her tune when her brother says he'll pay her. So, the young man heads over to his girlfriend's apartment, figuring Ha Ho would still be up. To his surprise, someone had already unlocked the door. As he walks in, Chu King finds some old guy grabbing his girlfriend by the wrists. The stranger demands to know who the kid who just walked in is. Our hero shoots back that she's his girlfriend and asks the old man who he is. The guy just asks again who he is, before revealing that he's her father and asking if the kid can pay off her 3 million debt. The pink-haired girl fires back, saying he's the one who gambled away the 3 million. Her father just scoffs that it doesn't matter. Since she's his daughter, she's the one who has to pay. She demands to know how he expects her to come up with that kind of money. Furious, she throws her credit card at his face and tells him to get out. The man says the card isn't nearly enough and that he'll just get the rest from her boyfriend. Chuing says he doesn't have any money because he's just a student. The father sneers that his daughter is probably just dating a student to leech off his family's money. She argues that the boy wouldn't give her the time of day if he were actually rich. Her father grabs her arm, snarling that he'll find her a man with plenty of cash, and as long as the guy is an adult, nothing else matters. The man adds that his daughter can just sell her company for a night, since all she needs to do is entertain some rich men for an evening, no strings attached. Wahawa starts to cry and runs into her boyfriend's arms. Chuing calmly says he can pay the debt on the condition that the man never speaks to his daughter again. The father's ears perk up. He asks if the kid is serious. The protagonist tells Gua to let him handle this. Her father then says that 3 million isn't going to cut it anymore. Now he needs 5 million. The girl curses her father under her breath. The brown-haired hero says he'll hand over the cash as soon as the man signs a document stating he will never speak to her again. The deadbeat father refuses, but gives his word he won't contact her. Chuing says that's his problem. But once the night is over and his meal ticket is gone, the deal is off. The protagonist won't be handing over a single dime. The man starts to look worried and asks where the papers are. Finally, Chuing pulls out the contract. After signing, the girl's father greedily asks where the money is. Our hero tells him not to be in such a rush, saying he wants to show him something first. He picks up a mug, and using his powers, morphs it into a deadly weapon. The man's jaw drops when he realizes the kid can use magic. In the next instant, the object shoots out of Chu King's hand and smacks her father, Hu, right in the face. The brown-haired young man then threatens that if he ever finds out the man is bothering Hua Hua, once again, he's ready to use his brutal methods to eliminate someone, and she'd be none the wiser. The injured man then makes a hasty retreat. The pink-haired girl throws her arms around her boyfriend, crying and insisting she'll pay the 5 million, but the man she loves tells her that's practically pocket change for him. A smile spreads across her face, and the two finally share a kiss. A new day begins, and the two of them wake up together. Hua Hua gently wakes our protagonist. He squints at the bright sun, wondering how she's up so early. She tells him to get up quickly, saying she has something she wants to show him. Later, Hua Hua and Shu Xing are eating breakfast. Looking around the table, he notices the house is completely spotless. He asks her why she's being so affectionate, and she replies that it's because she's afraid of losing him. He tells her she doesn't have to try so hard, all she needs to do is be herself. Later, while Hua Hua is washing the dishes, Shu Xing feels a sharp pain in his sore back. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. He's got a message. It's from Zhuo, letting him know that the problem has been taken care of. Shu Xing mentally thanks his friend for lending him the 5 million, but then another message pops up, catching him by surprise. This one's from Tang Xian, telling him to meet her at the basketball club after his classes. When Shu Xing gets to school, he sees a chaotic game of dodgeball happening on the court, with a few kids getting pelted by the ball. He spots the purple-haired girl waiting in the stands. Walking up to her, he asks if they're supposed to be playing basketball or just playing a game of human pinball, wondering how they're ever going to practice. She just replies that you can't expect these guys to be on a girl's level. She then changes the subject, reminding him about the new medicinal formula he'd mentioned. Shu Xing, in turn, pulls out a piece of paper and shows her the formula, explaining that it helps mages enhance their magical power. Tang Shen takes the paper and asks if he really trusts her this much, or if he's worried she might just steal it. He simply asks if she'd believe him if he told her that the money isn't important to him, he just wants to help a friend he trusts. Hearing this, the purple-haired girl confesses that now she's actually fallen in love with him. Our hero, however, just asks if this means she didn't like him before. She explains that before, she was only interested, but before she can finish her thought, she pulls Shu Xing in for a kiss. Just then, the protagonist spots a basketball hurtling straight for them. With lightning-fast reflexes, he puts up a hand to stop it. Nearby, Jukan is clearly not enjoying the scene. The brown-haired young man spins a basketball on his finger and says that because of her, she now has a fan club that doesn't like seeing the two of them so close. Hearing this, Tang Xian furiously turns on the players and orders them to run 50 laps around the entire court. Later that night, our hero is at home when his mother comes into his room. He asks his mom what she's doing here. She sits down on his bed and asks him to be honest with her. Is there a girl he's interested in? He admits there is, but asks why she's bringing this up so suddenly. His mother, assuming it must be a girl from a prominent family, reveals that she doesn't mind him being with someone he truly loves. She then mentions that he met his second aunt just a few days ago, and that he's also aware there are about 7 or 8 family members. She reminds him that his own grandmother married 5 different men and had tons of children. Their family is huge and comes with a lot of strict rules. His mother then adds that Shu Xing's second aunt was in an accident, which is putting a delay on their plans. The young man asked if that was for real. His mother confessed that she felt utterly helpless at the moment, unable to protect her own son. He then asked if they couldn't just try to be friendly. His mother explained that if he was thinking of marrying Yoni, it was a lost cause. Her family wasn't that powerful, and apparently, they had just made an enemy of someone important. Finally, she asked if Shu Qing knew about the National University. He confirmed that he did, knowing it was the #1 university in the nation and also one of its most dominant forces. His mother told him that if he really wanted to dodge this marriage, he needed to get into the National University. That way, the Chu family wouldn't dare interfere with the opportunities the university offered. Later, our protagonist was deep in meditation. He knew the National University held a unique and powerful position in this world, having supplied the empire with countless resources. It undoubtedly held a wealth of information he needed to uncover the secrets of this world. On top of that, the cultivation system here was on par with the fairy worlds. Using his magic, the young man forged another amulet that looked like a tiny sword. There are 5 eternal cultivation domains: Foundation Building, Dandan, Yuanying, Infant Transformation, and Mahayana, which was the highest level he had ever reached. After cultivating for 300 years and ascending from the Mahayana realm, he thought he'd enter the realm of eternity, but instead, he wound up in this strange new world. Channeling his power, Chu Xing was transforming the small sword amulet into a massive golden sword. He could feel the weapon changing in ways invisible to the naked eye. It seemed he had stepped onto the path of Yuong Don. If the rust on it didn't disappear, the consequences would be unimaginable. Why did he have to take this risk, knowing that if his cultivation's foundation collapsed, he would surely die? The protagonist knew he had to find that pot as quickly as possible and hide it before anyone else discovered its existence. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was Zhu, and he answered. Zhu was fuming on the other end. The auction was about to start, and his friend was a no-show. The brown-haired youth was confused about how this happened. Then he remembered getting some texts from his friend at school. However, he'd read them when he was half asleep and just turned off his phone to take a nap. Apparently, he'd completely forgotten and dozed off. Chu Xing finally arrived at the auction, on the hunt for a spiritual material that would be suitable for making his sword sheath. They walked into the Exon auction house. Inside, Zhu was chatting up a woman in a red dress, and the moment she walked away, he looked completely flustered. Chu Xing realized the Zai family was probably trying to set Zhu up with well-known women. Meanwhile, some other women at the event were whispering about Chu Xing's worn-out clothes. One of them intentionally bumped into him as a passing couple told him that this was no place for a poor person like him and that he should take a look at himself. Chu Xing shot back that this was the Zai family's property, and since she wasn't the owner, she was the one embarrassing herself with that kind of behavior. The woman in the fine dress threatened him, snarling that just because he was a man didn't mean she wouldn't strike him. But Zhu, the brown-haired young man, leaped in to intercept the slap she was about to land on his friend. He declared that he had no intention of fighting, but she was the one who started it. Then, he twisted her arm, causing it to pop from its socket. The woman's husband screamed for security, and a man approached, stating that Chu Xing was like a brother to him, and shaming his brother meant shaming himself. It was Zhu, stepping up to take charge, steps forward, informing the couple they're banned from the auction house for life. He then signals for the security team, and the couple starts begging for forgiveness. Meanwhile, the protagonist's friend notices the cold shoulder he's getting. Chuing asks if he has something on his mind. Zai cuts to the chase, asking if the kid's mom is part of the Chu imperial family, and the man confirms it. The white-haired guy then brings up Chu King's aunt, the one who lost a leg and a kidney. He adds that someone from the Chu family in the imperial capital tried to buy the intel, but he shut them down instantly. King then asks if his buddy knows who was behind the attack. However, he replies that even Missy Cheney couldn't figure out which family had made the move. Our hero was seriously on edge back then, knowing just how messy things are with the imperial family. Just then, two women walk into the hall and greet Chuing. He immediately recognizes his aunt and Ye Changi. His aunt mentions she heard he's about to take the university exam and tells him to hit the books. The protagonist can see she's worried and reassures her that everything's under control. Yechini tells her mother to go on ahead, saying she needs a quick word with the brown-haired boy. The second her mom's gone, the girl practically leaps into her beloved's arms. Just then, Zhu announces the auction is about to start and they need to get inside. Our hero tells Zhu not to take his aunt's nagging too seriously. The white-haired guy just smirks, saying that the family matriarch really cares about him too, which is exactly why she sees him as the top candidate for son-in-law. Shuing then asks if there are any special items up for grabs around here. His friend says he and Missy will head to their room first, and then he'll help dig up plenty of info. Inside the room, she asks if that spiritual stone her boyfriend was searching for actually made it into the auction. He tells her that a whopping 5 of them are on the list. The young man then offers his girlfriend a bottle of 5 milk tea. She's a bit confused, asking why he isn't having wine. The guy remembers that women in this world are all about those fancy drinks. Yi Sheni says she'll totally stop drinking if he doesn't like it. The next thing he knows, she's pulling his hand and pulling him in close. She whispers that the two of them should just drink whatever they want, together. Qing suddenly realizes that she is definitely after something. Yu Chang Shishai then reveals she bought those spicy outfits, just like the protagonist had asked for. Chu Chang's face turns beet red just thinking about it. All of a sudden, she shoves him right onto the sofa. The guy knows her beauty is a temptation he can't fight. Deciding to just go with it, he leans in and kisses her. At that exact moment, Zhu walks in and catches the two of them in a very compromising position. The guy slams the door shut, stammering an apology for interrupting. Changxi just giggles and suggests they pick up where they left off. Shu gently pushes her away, reminding her that the auction is about to begin. The woman pouts, asking why he's getting all shy now when he wasn't a minute ago. The brown-haired young man thinks to himself that if Zhu hadn't shown up, he might have completely lost control. Then, the protagonist calls out to the white-haired guy who was obviously eavesdropping behind the door. The man sheepishly enters, apologizing for crashing their private party, but insists he has crucial information. The two of them huddle around the tablet to look at the new details. King asks if every single one of these items is really going to be in the auction. He notes that there doesn't seem to be any material that could upgrade his sword. His buddy points out a piece of meteorite on the list. He explains that what's shown is just a tiny fragment, but there are hundreds of kilograms of the stuff, more than enough to forge some legendary weapons. He knows for a fact it's the real deal, because he almost, after it burned the person who tried to identify it. Shu Xing remarks that the object could be repurposed into some kind of energy-efficient, pollution-free cooking pot. This makes Yi Chang burst out laughing. Zhu comments that Mr. Chu's standards are simply too high, which is why he won't stop bugging him and snags his tablet. The white-haired man pulls up a news article for the girl, and her eyes land on an item called Fan Ji, a legendary wine that's been aged for ages. The stories say it can dramatically boost a soldier's power if they drink it. Chu Xing turns to his girlfriend and asks if she wants it, but she points out that something that valuable have everyone fighting for it, and there's no way she could hold on to it. Just then, something catches our hero's eye. He points at the screen, a look of realization on his face. It's Dawen. It was never about the wine. It's about the jar. Isn't this the exact material for the golden god that he's been searching for? No matter the cost, he has to get his hands on it. Our hero explains that he couldn't care less about the wine, he's after the bronze jar. His friend is baffled, wondering if the jar itself is some kind of treasure. He thought he had Chu Xing figured out, but clearly, he completely underestimated him. He was totally stunned. That's when our hero reveals that his friend has a decent eye, but he missed the real prize. The bronze jar is the true treasure here, even if he couldn't recognize its value. The man has to admit his expertise is nothing compared to Mr. Chu's. With that settled, the boy announces he's heading home. His buddy offers to take him out for some fun, but our protagonist just sighs, saying that if he stays out any later tonight, he'll be stuck pulling an all-nighter to finish his homework. Zhu laughs, saying he forgot Chu Xing is still just a student, and tells him to run along home like a good little boy. In response, Chu Xing flashes him a not-so-friendly gesture. Later that night, Chu Xing is speeding home in his car. It's getting pretty late, and he's just hoping his parents don't find out he was gone. Still, his main goal for attending the auction has been accomplished. If he can just get that bronze piece, his problem with his power level will finally be solved. Now, it's time for him to start thinking about forming a solid alliance with the Shaishen auction house. After all, in this new life, Chu Xing isn't the lone swordsman he once was, cut off from the world. He has a family, he has friends, and he has people he loves, and for them, he's willing to fight with everything he's got. As the young man keeps driving, he fails to spot a construction sign up ahead. He slams on the brakes and wonders why the road is completely deserted. There definitely wasn't any construction here when he drove to the auction. And then, suddenly, Chu Xing is hit by an overwhelming sensation. A powerful, murderous aura descends from the sky. Our hero quickly ditches his car where it can't be spotted and melts into the shadows of the forest. From a distance, he sees what looks like a tense standoff. An elderly woman is standing before a group of other women. A figure in a deep violet cloak steps forward. Our hero immediately wonders who's under that purple robe, because their killing intent is stronger than that of all 6 others combined. The elderly woman speaks up, addressing her as Officer Jan Wo, reminding her that she bought the item fair and square for a huge sum of money. She asks what's to stop her from just eliminating them and taking it anyway. An act like that would be a direct challenge to the government's authority. The emissary of Jiangwan Shangyi had already made this perfectly clear. Unfortunately, the regular police are powerless against the ancient martial arts families. That's why, to keep them in line, the government created a special military surveillance department and sent an envoy named Jiang Wo. The woman in the purple robe declares that the object belongs to the empire, not to any single family or person. She then challenges them, asking if their martial arts family truly intends to undermine the foundations of the empire by taking what isn't theirs, act on their own authority. The elder demands to know if the woman in the purple robe is the one pulling the strings and insists on seeing an official order. Watching from the shadows, Qing figures this has to be the military surveillance department at work. The woman in purple confirms she has the order, and in the next instant, she's already lunging at the old woman. The elder gets clocked in the stomach before she can even react, sent flying backward into the rest of her group. The woman in purple stands surrounded by corpses. Qing's impressed. She took down 6 people single-handedly. He watches as she opens the trunk of her car and pulls out the exact bronze pot he was searching for. It all clicks that artifact was her target all along. The woman senses a hidden observer and orders them to reveal themselves. At her command, Qing steps out from the woods and asks if she believes he's just like her. She smirks, replying that she already knows, but before he can utter another word, she throws a punch straight at his face, screaming that he has to die. However, our hero effortlessly catches her fist. With his free hand, he grips his golden sword, warning her that it's not smart to get triggered so easily. Jiang Wu launches a surprise attack of his own, but she's quick, dodging by leaping backward. The woman in the purple robe retaliates with a powerful flying kick aimed right at his face. To her shock, he doesn't even flinch. The brown-haired hero casually raises an arm and sends the warrior flying. He declares that her power is nowhere near enough to kill him. "Are you asking to die?" she snarls, throwing off her cloak to reveal a weapon in her hand. The protagonist realizes she's a serious threat. She orders him to prepare to die and then fires a shot. The bullet screams toward his face, about to slam into his protective shield. But then, Qing's golden barrier shatters, triggering a massive explosion. The woman in the purple robe just smiles at the chaos. She strolls over to the car, grabbing the magical artifact. But just as she does, a golden sword comes flying at her from behind. Before she can even react, the blade pierces right through her back. "How can you still be alive?" she gasps, staring at Chang Wu. With one final slash of the golden sword, the woman collapses, dead. Ching finally assesses his own injuries, realizing the bullet that hit him was so powerful he needs to seal the wound immediately. He slumps to the ground, trying to use his internal energy to heal the damage, but he's in excruciating pain. Ching knows this wound could be fatal. The weapon she used wasn't the issue. His focus shifts to the bullet fragment. He realizes that times was the real problem. That thing was specifically designed to take down martial arts masters. Later that night, Hua Hua is busy gaming on her computer at home when suddenly, her apartment door creaks open and Ching crawls inside, bleeding heavily. She immediately starts to panic. She rushes over, asking what happened and if she should call an ambulance. The protagonist just tells her he's not going to die, but he needs her to cut away the decaying flesh with a knife. Hua looks after her boyfriend, asking why he's so badly hurt as she nervously holds the blade. The pink-haired girl is frozen, completely unsure of what to do. Then, she remembers she can call Sister Yi for help. A little while later, the two women are looking down at the injured boy. Yet she has a furious look on her face. She holds out her hand, demanding the knife, and then without hesitation, she plunges the blade deep into her boyfriend's neck. He lets out a blood-curdling scream as Hua Hua watches in horror from a safe distance. Several bloody tools are now lying on the floor beside him. Qing's neck is now bandaged up. The pink-haired girl asks if he's all right, but it's Ye Chang'e who declares that he's going to live. The brown-haired young man figures this situation is about to become a huge headache for him. The dark-haired girl tells her friend to get Chu Xing a glass of water, leaving the two of them completely alone. With a terrifying glare, Yenny demands to know if something happened between him and Hua Hua. He just asks what the big deal is, about him spending time with other women. She fires back, asking how he'd feel if she went out with another man, to which he replies that she's perfectly free to find someone else. Yen absolutely loses it over his casual attitude. The brown-haired young man says that if she can't accept his way of thinking, then they can just break up. The woman just glares at him, seething with frustration. Then, Chu King's girlfriend grabs his ear, yanking it as she says he should have come to her instead of running to Hua Hua. King explains that there are too many prying eyes around, and some things are better left unknown to outsiders. She then demands to know what happened last night. He reveals that he took out a Yangwu messenger. Just then, the pink-haired girl re-enters the room, and both girls are completely floored by this revelation. The protagonist insists that he was just defending himself. The dark-haired girl holds up the bullet, remarking how incredible it is that he survived a hit from a Wang bullet. It's the ultimate nightmare for all martial artists. It's an unbelievably powerful and difficult-to-craft bullet, manufactured exclusively by the Ministry of Military Supervision. Shenchi asks exactly what kind of Yangwu messenger he faced last night. The boy says she was wearing a purple cloak. His girlfriend explains that the delegation is ranked in 5 levels: red, yellow, green, blue, and purple, with red and purple being the weakest. Normally, a green-cloaked supervisor is the minimum rank to be issued a Wang bullet. The girl demands to know what Chu King could have possibly taken from them to attract the attention of a purple-cloaked supervisor who was carrying a Wang bullet. The boy then asks about the different power levels of martial artists. She can't believe he doesn't know this, especially for a soldier. The brown-haired young man just says that when he was little, he met some old guy who was always complaining, so he just bought a book and taught himself. Shenchi cuts him off, telling him to stop with the lame origin stories. She explains that the martial arts world is divided into 5 realms, ranked from lowest to highest: Hujing, Wujing, Nature Transformation, and the Sacred Realm. Each realm is further divided into 9 levels. The girl reveals she's at the 9th level of the Hujing stage. She's about to have a breakthrough, but for now, she's doing just fine. At that exact moment, Chu King's alarm blares. He shoots up in a panic, saying he has to get to school or he'll be late. Yenny immediately puts a hand out to stop him. She tells him not to overdo it, considering his serious injury, and that he needs to rest for a couple of days. In response, the protagonist simply starts unwrapping the bandages from his wounds to show them how much better he already is. The young woman stares in shock, asking if he's even human with that insanely fast and powerful healing ability. She also demands to know how he's preventing the wicked Wangshu aura from infecting his wound. The boy casually offers to teach her. His girlfriend can't believe her ears. She's about to learn a secret technique any martial artist would die for. The brown-haired young man says he'll show her another time, but he really has to run to school. Yenny yells at him to wait. Her sudden shout makes Hua Hua jump. The pink-haired girl calls out, "Sister Yi," but Yenny barely glances back as she storms out, slamming the door shut. Xuan figures she must be seriously angry with her. As class starts, Chuan is out cold at his desk, and his blue-haired friend tries shaking him awake again. The boy is jolted awake by his teacher's scolding. She tells both of them to get out of the classroom and instructs Chuan to have his parents come to the school this afternoon. The boy questions if the teacher really needs to bring his parents into this. She snaps back that she's done caring if he studies or not, but he's ruining it for everyone else. Xuan interjects that the teacher is mistaken and her friend will admit he was wrong. Xuan promises not to disturb the other students next time. The whole class starts laughing at the situation. The teacher, deciding she's had it with Chuan, instead tells Xuan to call her parents to keep things from getting worse. She wants to show Xuan's parents exactly how their daughter is throwing her education away over a boy. Our protagonist insists the teacher is wrong, saying if she's going to do this to the girl, she has to do it to him too. The teacher proposes a deal. If they can't score 10 points on the test, they'll have to call their parents and announce their relationship in front of the entire school. She wants to demonstrate to everyone the perils of young love. Chuan is just baffled as to how this girl could even like him. Another girl rushes up to Tang Zhang with some bad news that's been spreading like wildfire around the school. The purple-haired girl looks incredibly irritated. In the school hallway, a few girls confront Xuan, who asks what they want. They demand to know who she thinks she is. One of Tang Zhang's friends asks if Xuan is actually trying to steal the president's boyfriend. Xuan just blushes, completely speechless. The purple-haired girl asks where Chuan is. She finds him conked out in the classroom. She then has a fleeting worry that he might be crying. Tang Zhang gently touches her friend's shoulder, asking if he's okay. Chuan wakes with a start and asks if something's wrong. The girl explains she thought he was crying and wanted to get lunch with him to discuss some rumors that are going around. At that moment, Xuan shows up, apologizing profusely and insisting it's all her fault. The protagonist knows his dozing off in class is disruptive, but he asks if the girl genuinely likes him. Judging by her flustered reaction, he figures he hit the nail on the head. He then pulls the blue-haired girl into a hug and says they can always be good friends. Chuan thinks to himself that in this third life, he should really do something worthwhile. Tang Zhang looks on, clearly annoyed by the whole scene. Later, the couple is having lunch with Tai Yuno. She demands that Chuan apologize to Tang Zhang for having the nerve to hug another girl right in front of her. The brown-haired boy retorts that Tang Zhang's fans should apologize first. He then asks if she didn't hear a word he said to Xuan. Tai Yuno accuses him of acting out because he's not being spoiled by his girlfriend. However, he counters that he's going to be the one to spoil her. The orange-haired girl just starts bursting out laughing. Tang Zhang says she's waiting for Chuan to spoil her and asks what he's going to do. Our protagonist tells her to just wait and see. After calming down from her laughing fit, the young woman warns the brown-haired boy to stay away from other women and take his drama outside. She then screams that she's dead serious. Chuan grabs the girl's blouse, pulling her it is she has running as words pras and rel as one's frugies closer. He asks if her stay away from other women rule means he should stay away from Tai Yuno, too. The girl looks completely mortified. Tang Zhang tells her friend that she can go, and then says she'll be leaving as well. When the two are finally alone, the purple-haired girl asks if her boyfriend is mad because she doesn't spoil him. The protagonist reveals that he's unlike other guys and doesn't put those kinds of expectations on her. Chuchen genuinely cares for his girlfriend, which means she can completely trust him. Hearing this, the purple-haired girl is absolutely thrilled. But then, switching gears, she brings up that recipe he gave her. As it turns out, she couldn't use it for her martial arts practice because, well, it's actually a poison. Our protagonist is baffled, certain the recipe he provided was supposed to help cultivators boost their inner energy. Tang Zhang explains that these kinds of resection poisons are incredibly rare, and modern labs have no clue how to make them. Still, the recipe itself is extremely important and valuable, so her family will buy it for whatever price Chuchen names. The kid starts to piece it together. A recipe meant to enhance cultivation somehow turns into a poison for the practitioner. He realizes he needs to look into this much more carefully. The purple-haired girl stresses that this is a huge deal for the Tang family. If he names a low price, it would be a massive insult and a total waste of everyone's time. So, the guy asks her what she thinks it's worth. She casually estimates the value at a cool 200 million. Chuchen's mind races. If he sells all his recipes, he could be ridiculously rich. He immediately closes the deal. He figures he'll need to buy some special medicinal ingredients that only the Tang family can get their hands on. Just then, Tang Zhang asks if he's not interested in cultivating and making medicines himself. Her boyfriend fires back, asking if there's some rule that says he can't. The girl explains that it doesn't really matter because in the entire empire, absolutely no men are involved in making medicines. But hey, maybe he could be the first. Our hero can't help but think this world is seriously stacked against guys. In a tender moment, Tang Zhang gently wipes a smudge of dirt from her boyfriend's cheek, and then she licks her finger. A stunned Chuchin asks what in the world she's doing. With a sly grin, she asks if he's blushing now. She then suggests he should just drop the ancient martial arts training if he's worried about self-defense, because she's more than capable of protecting him. She then notices that he doesn't seem to be feeling well. Figuring it might be a side effect from his treatment, Tang Zhang hands him a healing potion. Then she warns him that if he keeps practicing martial arts, they'll have to break up since she doesn't want her future husband to risk being unable to have kids. Our protagonist is left wondering if ancient martial arts could really mess up that part of a man's life. Later that night, as Chuchin walks into his house after a long day, he's immediately grabbed by the collar. It's his father, who starts roughing him up, yelling that at least he still remembers the way home. The man only stops when he hears someone call out his name. It's Yangji, stepping in to take the blame for everything, claiming she was completely wasted the night before. Chuchin immediately thinks that her help is probably going to make this a whole lot worse. He's just left wondering why Yangji is even in his house. Meanwhile, his father is convinced his son has been totally corrupted. Chuchin turns to Yangji and asks what she's doing there. The young woman holds out a remedy to help with his injuries. But then, with a flash of irritation, she says it looks like he doesn't need it anymore. She then reveals that her family are friends with the Tangs, and demands to know how he got his hands on this particular medicine. Chuchin just asks who told her he didn't need the potion. Changing the subject completely, he declares that he's going to teach her a method for handling the show and bullet wine, and a skeptical Yangji asks if he's serious. Our hero confidently says they'll just start off slowly. As the two of them join hands, a brilliant blue aura flares up around them. The power immediately begins to surge, and the girl starts to feel the immense pressure. The brown-haired young man asks if she's holding up okay. She grits out that it was incredibly painful. Chuchin quickly offers her the potion, telling her to drink it down. He starts questioning what just went wrong. The meridian isn't supposed to shatter when he channels his aura. Unfortunately, fixing a break like this is a whole other problem. He remembers the last time he healed Yangji, the aura also flowed into her system. For some reason, though, that didn't happen this time. Now, I'm going to have to manually infuse the aura into her body. Chuxing focuses his energy, trying to create a healing effect. He gently asks his girlfriend if it still hurts, and she responds that it feels pretty comfortable now. Maybe, just maybe, that's why Tang Zhang claimed the formula was poison. The protagonist figures he needs to investigate more martial arts methods to finally understand the differences between men and women in this world. He asks the kid to do it again, but the boy just tells her to put her clothes on. At that exact moment, his father waltzes into the room and asks if they're having a study session in bed. Chuchin tries to explain, and the girl claims she was just lying down because she was tired, then promptly declares that she's heading home. The brown-haired young man insists he didn't do a single thing, and now he's just going to sleep. He knows these abnormalities need a deep dive, but for now, the most important thing is the scabbard for his sword. Over at the scene of the previous day's battle, a woman in a green cloak observes that only a tiny amount of blood remains. She says this doesn't look like the work of an assassin or an ancient martial arts warrior, but more like a Taoist. The girl with her in a blue cloak asks what she means by that. The one in green wants them to check the hospital and Jimin, then investigate the flow of certain substances on the black market and send someone to inspect the auction house. Her companion asks if they're heading to Jimin right now. The other says yes, since the fiancé her family arranged for her and Jimin happens to be the son of Miss Chu, and they're going to pay him a visit. Chuchin suddenly sneezes, back in his room. He wonders who on earth could be talking about him. Chuchin is in his room with the bronze jar, trying to refine his sword. He opens his eyes, realizing that finally, with this scabbard, his sword will no longer get damaged and will soon return to its original glory. He raises his hand, and a stone mask suddenly appears. The protagonist thinks that if he needs to throw down in a future battle, he should definitely use this mask. All that's left is the ancient wine, and the only thing that makes it special is that it caused countless fighters to bite the dust trying to obtain it. Suddenly, his phone rings. It's Yi Chen-yi, inviting him over to her house for dinner. In Yuji's private kitchen, the three of them are dining together. The protagonist's aunt reveals that she's not sure if a certain remedy, which can seriously boost combat strength in a short time, has been fully perfected. However, a lot of families have been looking for it recently, and she would love to get some if it's available. The young man says he doesn't have any on him, but he can brew some up by next week. Miss Yi asks how much it will cost. Chuchin says he doesn't need money. He only wants to borrow the ancient martial arts training manual from her family. The atmosphere immediately becomes tense, and he wonders if he said something wrong. The woman declares that this is a family heirloom, more important than the lives of everyone in the family, and she can't just pass it on to an outsider. The protagonist is completely stunned by this information. His aunt advises him not to practice these martial arts. She wants him to stop being a warrior, claiming it is utterly pointless. The young man tries to figure out how to explain why men have so much trouble practicing these martial arts. Yi Chen-yi then asks if the technique could be taught if Chu-chin were a member of the family. Her mother responds that it would only be possible after they were married. Our hero reveals that he can't get married. However, Mrs. Yi says that if he doesn't want to, he was making things worse and should just shut up. Her daughter looks so heartbroken. He knew he had to investigate this. He decided to look into it further, planning to ask Jiao and also pay off that 2 million debt His white-haired friend asked when he'd gotten so rich. He wondered if he was secretly dealing spiritual stones on the side. The guy kept his source of income a secret, but he mentioned needing a training method. Jiao scoffed, asking if he seriously thought an ancient martial arts technique was so easy to come by. He then asked if he'd ever even practiced before. Chu Qin wanted to change his training, but there was a major catch. Jiao just laughed, and his friends all started chiming in. The brown-haired boy asked what was so wrong with a man practicing martial arts. His white-haired companion shot back that men simply can't do that, but Chu Xing wasn't paying him any mind. He wondered if martial arts were truly that dangerous for every single man. Jiao confirmed it, saying it's not a path a man can follow. To even begin the training, a man would have to undergo a certain procedure or be exploited. It suddenly dawned on the protagonist that Tang Zhang and Aunt Yi were right all along. His companion jokingly offered to help by calling a hospital to schedule his little operation. The boy quickly clarified that he just needed a few self-defense techniques and asked where he could buy some. Zhao admitted he didn't have any and highly doubted his friend would be able to purchase them either. The families who hold these techniques would rather burn their houses down than sell them. Choosing was floored. He hadn't realized how completely women monopolize everything in this world. Maybe they were afraid that if men learned the techniques, they would end up destroying the world. Just then, his phone rang. It was Hua, telling him a delivery from the Tang family had arrived. Now the young man could finally craft the medicines. It was go time, and back in his room, the brown-haired boy began working his magic. He conjured a container, and inside it, golden pellets started to form. He thought about how incredibly complicated making medicine was, but with this mask, it became much easier. Finally, he perfected the Quangang Dan pills, which could increase a user's power by 30%. Hua timidly cracked open the door to his room. Choosing told her to come on in, saying he was finished. She asked what he had been doing. He replied that he was just making some medicine. The pink-haired girl looked puzzled, wondering if that wasn't something only the Tang family could do. Choosing asked if she thought he was lying. Hua then wanted to know if he was going to go home now that his work was done. In response, her boyfriend pulled her into a hug and then kissed her. He asked softly if she wanted him to go home or to stay. Her wish was for him to stay by her side. Choosing thought to himself that Hua was the most like a normal woman from his world. However, her reaction wasn't shy at all when she spoke. He swept her up into his arms and laid her gently on the bed, but the girl told him that they couldn't do this because it was a risky time for her, and she didn't want to get pregnant. It would be really bad for the occasion. Brown-haired boy if she got pregnant, and the rumors would be insane. The protagonist asked if she was saying he wasn't responsible enough. Choosing realized he barely slept a wink that night. The next day, a boy called out to him, saying his sister wanted to see him. The brown-haired boy asked what she could possibly want with him. Yu said he didn't know, then slyly asked if he was about to become his brother-in-law and what that meant for Tang Xing. The brown-haired boy shot back, asking if that was what was really bothering his sister, or if Yumao actually had a crush on Tang Xing. His friend quickly confessed that the only girl he liked was Tao Yuno and begged him not to tell a soul. The protagonist silently judged his friend's taste for ditzy women. He offered to help his friend win over Tao Yuno, but only if he promised to stop messing with him, talking in such a cringy way. Suddenly, the boy remembers that men in this world are treated almost like delicate dolls and actually enjoy gossiping. His friend asks if he's really going to win the girl over. Chu Qin promises that she'll be the one begging to date him, but he wonders if he'll have to resort to threats or force. Just then, our protagonist spots Ye Chenny, casually leaning against his car. He asks her what brings her here today, and she offers him a milk tea. Her brother immediately chimes in, asking why she's being so cold and where his drink is. The girl fires back that her brother gets nothing and tells her boyfriend to drink up before it gets warm. Chuing can't help but wonder if Ye Chenxi is still holding a grudge from yesterday. The young woman explains that she waited in a super long line just to buy it for him and insists he finish every last drop. Our hero does as he's told, but as he takes the final sip, his vision starts to go blurry. It hits him the woman slips something in his drink again. The cup tumbles from his grasp as the boy thinks about how stupid he is. He's out cold in an instant, and Ye Chenny carefully loads him into the car. Yao is completely floored by his sister's actions. She warns him to stay out of it from now on and tells him to just grab an Uber home. With that, she peels out, speeding off in her car. Some time later, under the cover of night, Chuing wakes up in a strange bed with Ye changing looming over him. The boy freaks out, demanding to know what she did. The young woman calmly tells him not to move a muscle. Then, she leans in and plants a kiss on him, sending the poor guy into a spiral of despair. Chuing asks his so-called girlfriend if she's completely clueless about this sort of thing, given how she's acting. At that comment, the girl sits up straight. She reveals that she's only reining him in and nothing more. Besides, she says boyfriends aren't just four. That, finally, she presents him with a book which turns out to be the legendary inscription diary of the Ye family. Yuren explains that for him to see its secrets, he has to be completely hers. Our protagonist quickly assures her that he already thinks of her as his wife and swears he'd do anything for her. Yasangi replies that he doesn't need to do a single thing for her. Instead, she's the one who's willing to do anything for her future husband. And with that, she pulls him in for another close encounter. Their kiss feels like it's charged with some kind of magic. The dark-haired woman pulls back, asking what her boyfriend just slipped into her mouth. Choosing just smirks and says it's something good and that she'll find out what it is soon enough. Just then, Yurin starts to glow with a brilliant blue aura. Her companion is completely stunned by the ancient martial arts that were created by women. You see, in this world, women are born with unique changes in their meridians, and once they absorb a massive amount of spiritual power, they can use ancient martial arts to convert that energy into pure internal strength. Men, on the other hand, lack the proper methods to absorb this kind of power. If one of them even tries to practice these martial arts, they'll just explode and die. The rise of this incredible power is what allowed women to dominate the entire world. However, our hero is hoping to change the system so that men can finally practice as well. Suddenly, his companion's eyes snap open as she realizes she's just shattered the wooding barrier. She's now reached the third layer of the wooding realm. It turns out Chewing gave her the legendary ancient wine, which is incredibly beneficial for female cultivators. The woman demands to know where he got his hands on it, but the young man cheekily replies that it's a trade secret. Because of this, Changi decides she wants to test if he's still stronger than her. The girl lunges forward to punch her boyfriend, but her hand is stopped dead in its tracks. All of the force is completely contained. Chewing pulls the woman into his arms, whispering that he can't handle this much excitement. The dark-haired girl immediately asks for more of that wine so they can pick up where they left off. Later, the exhausted boy asks if she hasn't had enough yet. She just shoves him back down. He somehow survives the ordeal with his energy completely drained. Luckily, he'd taken a medicinal drink beforehand to keep his stamina up. Later, the boy runs into Ta, who tells him that Tang wants to see him. Our protagonist immediately gets a sinking feeling in his stomach, and then he makes his way to the extracurricular sports office, where the purple-haired girl immediately confronts him, demanding to know where he was last night. Without missing a beat, the guy tells her he was at a hotel with Shen Shi, which causes Tang Zhang to slam her fist on the table and jump to her feet. The girl can't believe how shameless he is for admitting it so casually. The protagonist then asks if she'd be his one and only partner if they were an item. She quickly realizes her family would never approve of that. Chewing argues that everyone should have equal rights. His girlfriend scoffs, asking how men and women could ever possibly have equal rights. The boy declares he's going to show the world the true meaning of being human. Tang Zhang retorts that he'll need to hit the books hard to pull that off, but the protagonist suggests that if she can't get on his level, maybe they should just go their separate ways. The girl asks if he's really just going to walk away without another word. Then she wonders aloud if all men are this callous. Chewing tells her to just spit it out, and she finally admits that she likes him and is determined to make him her husband someday. However, she's still absolutely furious about what happened and wishes she could just end Yenny. He flatly tells her he'll never let that happen. Tang Zhang reveals that's precisely why she's giving him a second chance. She challenges him to an arm wrestling match. If he loses, Yen K will pay the price with her hands. Chewing coolly asks, "Is that all?" The purple-haired girl scoffs, confident that he can't possibly be stronger than her. The protagonist just tells her to bring it on. Tang Zhang vows that she will never yield to him. Chewing calmly replies that she won't have to. A brilliant golden aura then erupts around them. Tang Zhang is putting every ounce of her strength into it. Her boyfriend realizes she's even stronger than Yen. He starts to worry about the consequences of losing. Knowing he can't afford to lose, Chewing discreetly grabs one of his magical pills. He crushes it in his palm, and a surge of power flows through him. With a sudden burst of energy, he slams Tang Zhang's hand down. The girl stares in disbelief, wondering how that was possible. Her boyfriend reminds her to honor their agreement. The purple-haired girl grits her teeth and says she'll let it slide this once, but warns him there won't be a next time. Finally, as a parting shot, she yells that if they don't get married, she'll never leave him alone. Later that evening, when Chewing gets home, he finds a girl in a green dress waiting in his living room. His mother seems surprised, saying she didn't expect him back tonight. He just explains that he had to come home because his teacher was busy. That's when the girl in the green dress introduces herself as Gonggu and says she's his fiancée. The kid tells her to stop talking nonsense, but she just smirks and presents him with a copy of a marriage contract. The protagonist takes the document and glances over it. He has no idea who signed the thing and doesn't recognize the agreement at all, so he simply wishes the woman a happy life. Gonggu asks if he truly doesn't recognize it, adding that his uncles certainly will. Chewing's mother chimes in, explaining the contract was signed by the head of the family, his own mother, and his grandmother. Apparently, Chu Allen holds a lot of sway over his parents, and Gonggu is brazen enough to threaten them right in front of him. Chewing tears the contract right in half. The girl remarks that he was very brave for doing that, but warns him that Grandma Chu's reaction won't be nearly as pleasant, though she coyly promises not to tell on him. At that moment, the brown-haired guy thinks this woman is completely out of her mind. He announces he's going out for dinner. His fiancée insists on joining him so they can get to know each other, any feelings for each other. The girl scoffs, "Are you kidding me?" saying she has no reason to help his parents and that she'd rate him a 2 out of 10. Our hero retorts that her rating doesn't matter, since he's been itching to smack her for a long time. But she nimbly jumps out of the way. Gongu pleads with him to at least give her a compliment, reminding him they just met and can't be trying to fight already. The brown-haired guy calls her logic totally flawed and says he'll get started once he figures out where she lives. Ganu proudly declares she's a lady from the prestigious Chu family and that Xing should feel honored she's even willing to marry him. The guy sarcastically thanks her, then says he couldn't care less and launches a kick right at her. He's shocked when she instantly counters with a powerful kick of her own. Knocked back, Chuing realizes this woman is somehow even stronger than Tang Zhang. The girl in the green dress just smirks, saying he's way too handsome to be so angry all the time. Our protagonist thinks to himself that if this fight keeps up, he's definitely going to lose. He channels his power into one hand and summons his massive golden sword. The girl looks surprised for a moment, then reaches into her dress. Our hero lunges forward, yellow sword in hand, ready to strike the woman. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife. Gang Yu, trying to play peacemaker, begs Shuing to calm down, holding her hands up in surrender. The boy gets lost in thought, analyzing how this woman's strength is on a whole different level from anyone he's ever faced. She interrupts his thoughts by announcing that he's officially qualified to be her husband. With a sneer, he reminds her of how she just rejected the whole proposal, but the blonde woman explains that she wasn't exactly on board with the arrangement either. Getting a bit emotional, she tells a story about how she was never popular with guys and was shocked to find out her betrothed was a strong and handsome man. Xing starts to feel the pressure mounting. Gong warns him there will be serious consequences if he backs out of the marriage. Curious, the young man asks about his chances of getting accepted into the national university. The blonde just bursts out laughing, telling him how completely impossible that would be. Furious, he storms off, already plotting his revenge for when he inevitably gets into the university. Gong trails after him, chattering nonstop and jumping from one topic to another. Chuing picks up his pace, desperate to escape this incredibly awkward situation. In an attempt to connect, she starts spilling all the juicy secrets about the guys at the university, leaving the boy completely mortified. Our protagonist is on edge in this uncomfortable situation when suddenly he feels the woman unexpectedly cop a feel. He immediately retaliates with a swing of his fist, fully powered up and seething with rage. The woman just tells him to chill out. As if to tease him, she winks, then grabs his hand and places it on her chest, promising she'll stop messing around. 2 days later, a major sports event is underway in a packed stadium, roaring with cheering fans. Hussein can't stop thinking about that bizarre encounter and is trying to figure out a way to get accepted into the university. A guy next to him asks why he isn't on the basketball team, and he explains that someone rigged it so he'd get kicked off. Xia shows up at Shu's request to remind him there's a game today and he better not forget to show up. Our protagonist, completely absorbed in his book, replies that he doesn't have time for that. The messenger, in a bossy tone, snatches the book right out of his hands and tells him he has to go, whether he likes it or not. The book goes flying away from the heated discussion. Xia Al, visibly irritated, just turns and storms off. Seething with rage, our hero decides to settle this, grabbing a book from a nearby desk. But then another book comes flying, this time smacking Xiao right on the head. The kid explodes, screaming curses at Chu Xing and asking if he has a death wish. With a furious look, Chu Xing clenches his fists and faces the punk, looking totally confident and ready to throw down. Chu Xing orders Xiao to go get his book. Without skipping a beat, the loudmouth sarcastically questions the command to fetch the book. Absolutely livid, he lunges at Chu Xing, yelling that he was getting way too cocky. However, our hero simply sidesteps, letting the kid fall flat on his face. Chu Xing's friend, who saw the whole thing, jumps in and holds Xiao back to stop a fight. This time, Xiao actually bites him, making him cry out in pain. Having had enough, Chu Xing grabs both of them by the arms and yanks them apart, holding them with an air of complete dominance. He asks them what they think they can do if they really want to fight. He cranks Xiao's arm with all his strength, making him yelp in pain. The kid just spits back insults, letting him know how much it hurts. But those insults just tick Chu Xing off more, and he demands an apology not only for the insults and the whole situation. Chu Xing also demands he say sorry for how he treated his friend, Ye Mao. Just then, the vice president shows up, taking in the whole chaotic scene. She sternly declares that this is no place for a brawl and orders them all to the principal's office with her. Xiao starts wailing, begging and screaming for someone to help him. He's convinced she'll take his side and claims he didn't do anything wrong. However, Chu Xing explains the entire story, even showing her the bite mark on his friend's arm. The vice president asks why he felt the need to respond with more violence. Our protagonist defends himself, saying he was just stopping Xiao's rampage and even suggests he deserves some recognition from the student council for it. The woman suggests hearing the other side of the story and turns to Xiao, who's just a crying, blubbering mess, completely overcome with emotion. Then he starts to puke. There's so much of it that the vice president has to jump back as everyone else panics. Realizing everyone is staring, his only reaction is to bolt, crying from total embarrassment. Meanwhile, Chu Sing suggests to his friend that they head to the nurse's office, showing he's worried about him. Chu Sing just can't understand why Yumao looks so terrified, and Yumao just says he'd rather stay out of trouble. It's in that moment that Chu Sing realizes his friend is actually pretty darn brave, considering everything. The vice president takes off running to the student council to report the incident. She immediately starts telling Tang Zan exactly what her boyfriend, Chu Sing, just did, and begins trying to poison Tang Zan's opinion of him, but Tang Zan fires back, stating that she won't be fooled by her little games. The vice president, in a totally nosy tone, suggested that Tang Zan should just break up with her boyfriend, but she did not react well to that kind of meddling and, with an ice-cold and serious expression, made her feelings perfectly clear. Her colleague, stammering an apology, quickly asked her to forget everything she just said, but Tang Zan warned that she already knew what went down and that Xiao was the one who started the trouble in the first place. The vice president tried to argue, claiming that Chu Sing was just very sly and that Tang Zan couldn't see it. After that whole mess, while they were in the infirmary, some of Chu Sing's classmates showed up looking to get some payback, but Chu Sing stepped up to defend his friend. His friend demanded to know why Chu Sing had decked him, but our protagonist just scoffed, tossing a key onto the ground with a smirk. He was clearly trying to pick another fight, but the guy didn't even flinch, simply informing him that Tang had requested Chu Sing's presence at the game. Our hero shot back that he wasn't going, but he did take full responsibility for what happened and told the guys to scram. But Su kept pushing his buttons, questioning if he was really going to break his promise to play in the game. That did it. Chu Sing declared he would participate in the match just as he'd agreed. Back in the hall, the cheerleaders had already kicked off their performance. Meanwhile, the student council presidents from the rival schools were waiting for the game to start, locked in a tense stare-down with zero friendliness between them. Chu Sing and his friend were heading toward the venue when he was surprised to see that the presidents of the student councils from both schools were actually there. A player from the team spotted them and waved, getting their attention. He motioned for them to come over. His name was Jean. The guy had prepared 2 chairs for them to wait on until they were called up. Chu Sing, ever the perceptive one, noticed something was off with one of the chairs. He played it cool, masking his suspicion as he Saturday down in the other one. For a moment, Jean thought his little revenge plot had worked, but he was stunned to see Chu Sing hadn't fallen for the trap. Totally bummed, he slunk away to rejoin his buddies. That's when our protagonist realized they were still out for revenge. Just then, an arm reached over with a note asking how he liked warming the bench. He knew right away that she was still ticked off at him. As he flipped the note over to respond, Chu Sing was about to warn her not to sit in the adjacent chair, but it was too late. She plopped right down into the one covered in glue. He couldn't help but laugh at the whole situation, while she got more and more irritated. When Zong finally stood up to leave, she was in for a nasty surprise. Her pants were stuck fast to the wood, and they tore, putting her underwear on full display. She was absolutely mortified by the whole thing and was left completely speechless. He immediately started teasing her, mentioning that her underwear was pink. Zong absolutely lost it, demanding to know why Chu Sing hadn't said anything. Our hero replied that he had tried to write it on the note, and besides, that trap had been meant for him. Wasting no time, she whipped off her jacket and tied it around her waist to cover the damage. This time, she flipped the script, putting him on the spot. She teased him, asking what he planned to do now that she was basically just in her bra. Without a second thought, he used his own jacket to cover her up. He said he didn't want any other guys staring at her. Trying to gauge his feelings, she asked if he was jealous. Even so, she took the jacket off, handed it back to him, and walked away, telling him he better get used to it. Chu Sing was fuming, and Jean reminded him that the game was about to start. With the game underway, both teams were giving it their all. The match was nowhere near over, and both sides were dead set on winning. Our protagonist observed how well Jang had coached the team, but he also noticed that something weird seemed to be going on with the other team. They looked completely lost out there for most of the match. Meanwhile, over at the president's table, Li Hongyi asked Jang if the guy on the bench was her special someone. And, just to get under her skin, she suggested borrowing Chu Sing if her team won. Jang immediately shot her down, ending the conversation cold. Without a second thought, the rival president scoffed, betting she'd streak across campus if her team actually lost. With the bet set, the rival team's president gave her players a new set of orders. They suddenly started moving in a completely different way, leaving the home team totally blindsided and unprepared for the switch-up. Then the points started racking up, throwing Jiang Xing into a panic. It was then the president realized the rival team was sandbagging on purpose, and she completely lost it. Li W just kept poking the bear, smugly reminding her that she'd have to lend out her boyfriend. All the while, Ching watched the game unfold, knowing the players on. The rival team were way better than they'd been showing. That's when Jiang Zhang announced it was his turn to get on the court. He shot back, "Why should I play if I'm just a bench warmer?" But she begged him not to stir up more trouble, pleading that they absolutely had to win. Zhang then piped up about the deal to lend the boyfriend for a month to the rival team's president. He jumped in on the teasing, asking if she meant the pretty girl sitting at the table with her. She was absolutely floored by his comment, unable to believe what she'd just heard. The protagonist then joked that he wanted Kim to be his personal cheerleader while he played. Not one to be outdone, the president decided to sweeten the deal, promising a special reward if he managed to win. He was instantly hyped, and just as promised, she became his cheerleader, looking pretty pleased with how things were going. It was finally his time to sub in. On his very first move, he smoothly stole the ball right from a player on the rival team. He was lightning fast, jumped incredibly high, and was determined to turn the game around, but it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. President Li Honder was clearly amused by the whole spectacle. She mocked him, saying that Jin's boyfriend was absolutely terrible, and that winning would be a piece of cake. The score was definitely lopsided, which is why Kim had to come up with a new strategy on the fly. He went for his best move, took a big risk, and nailed a perfect basket. The cheerleaders went wild, celebrating the much-needed points. That's when he noticed something strange about the rival team's captain, so he passed the ball directly to him, hoping to figure out what was going on. No one understood why Kim made such a bizarre move. Everyone was left completely clueless. The rival president just smirked, thinking he was in a rush to lose and leave with her. But just as the rival captain was about to make a play, our hero yanked down his shorts and revealed a pair of panties. He then yelled out, asking where the supposed guy's Adam's apple was. The whole gym was horrified, stunned, and totally confused. Lee Honder looked frustrated that her plan was exposed, but it was obvious she knew what was happening all along. The girl in the panties was frozen solid in the middle of the court as the game screeched to a halt. The rival team was disqualified, and just like that, he finally figured out the truth about their captain. Kim's first instinct was to turn to Lee and ask when she was going to follow through on the promise she made. But, clever as ever, the president shot back, asking if he even had the nerve to collect on that bet. 3 days later, during class at the same school, Kim was scribbling away in his notebook. His friend Ye came over and asked what horrible thing he was drawing, so he showed him the sketch and asked his friend if he could make any sense of it. The protagonist was trying to diagram the possibility of using a man's inner power to practice ancient martial arts. Someone delivered a message from Tang Zhen telling him to meet her at the martial arts training pavilion. His mind raced, trying to figure out all the possible reasons she'd want to see him there. But when he arrived, he found Tang Zhen looking like she was ready for a brawl. And just like that, things kicked off. She challenged him to a fight, and he just had to ask why the president wanted to throw down with him. She replied that she'd spill the beans if he lost. So they got into a hilariously messy brawl that he, against all odds, actually won. Even so, he was dying to know the reason for the random challenge. Tang just reminded him that the deal was she'd only talk if he was the one who lost. To wrap things up, she unleashed a move he never saw coming, which technically made her the real champion of their little bout. He collapsed on the ground, wondering if any of this was even real. She got all huffy that he hadn't followed through on the promise, calling him just a boy. Tang then asked if he'd gotten rusty with his ancient martial arts, and he told her to relax, joking that he wasn't about to make her a widow. They kept up their clumsy back and forth, a mix of playful sparring and some pretty obvious flirting. Then, in a surprisingly bold move, she kissed him, leaving him totally breathless and stunned. He broke away, saying they shouldn't be doing that there, and she shot back, asking if he was embarrassed. He denied it, claiming it was impossible to feel embarrassed in a moment like that. Suddenly, someone let out a very deliberate cough, making it clear they were not alone. The flustered couple jumped apart, wondering who it could be. In the background, just outside the arena, they could see a group of 4 people. One of them was an incredibly well-dressed woman with flawless makeup and perfectly styled hair. Without skipping a beat, Tang grabbed her boyfriend by the collar and presented him like he was a criminal in a lineup. She announced to her father that this was her boyfriend, Chuing. Then she introduced her dad, King Yu, as the owner of the Central Martial Arts Pavilion. Chuing was completely lost, unable to wrap his head around what was happening or how any of this could be true. The father humbly corrected her, saying owner was an overstatement and that everything really belonged to the Tang family. He was simply the manager. He also pointed out that the 3 guys with him had been invited there by Tang herself. The girl casually confirmed it, leaving our protagonist even more confused by her strange plans. The 3 guys immediately started making excuses, apologizing for setting a trap for Chuing and even for throwing their match against Collegiate 2. The president warned that she'd deal with Li Wan later, but then she really laid into the other 2. On top of playing badly and trapping Chuing, they had also put glue on his chair, leaving the 3 guys terrified as the president chewed them out. All the while, Chewing just stood there feeling totally justified about all the weirdness he'd been dealing with. The girl's father then invited his daughter's boyfriend to get his wounds treated and told her to clean up the area because he needed to get going. Chewing felt it was a little harsh toward Tang, but he accepted the invitation, and the two men left together. When they arrived at a private room, the father motioned for the boy to have a seat. Our hero could tell right away that Tang's father had something serious to say. King Yu served some hot tea and immediately started grilling him with questions about his personal life. Feeling incredibly uncomfortable, the protagonist just assumed the man had already run a complete background check on him. Finally, he took a deep breath and braced himself for the awkward conversation that was sure to come. During their chat, Chu King casually poured some tea and asked if his being poor and unable to support the family was the real issue. Tang family. Her father shot back that it wasn't about his status, but his appearance, and he looked completely uneducated and worthless. With a smirk, Chu King promised he had no intention of marrying into the Tang family, but noted that some people just didn't seem to get the message. That sarcastic jab sent King Yu into a rage, making him spill his tea as he lunged right at him. Chu King fired back that if Tang Zan didn't want him, he'd gladly stay away. In response, her father slapped Chu King square across the face. That's when things exploded, and the pavilion owner declared he was going to tear up the protagonist's face. A full-blown brawl erupted in the room between Chu King and King Yu. It was at that moment that Tang Zan knew something was seriously wrong. Hearing the chaos inside, everyone came running to see what all the noise was about. When they got there, the furniture was smashed and flipped over, with our protagonist standing tall, while her father was on the floor, struggling to get back on his feet. The man, clearly dazed, still tried to attack him, warning that he shouldn't forget he was a martial arts warrior himself. Rushing into the room, Zan demanded to know what happened, and her boyfriend just said they were breaking up because her father told him to get lost. The father tried to clarify, saying he didn't tell him to stay away, just that he couldn't be the family head, and now he was more convinced than ever that Chu King wasn't worthy of her. Absolutely furious, Chu King pointed right at the man and challenged him to say it to his face. Chu King declared he would never marry her, not even if she got on her knees and begged. He wasn't done either, telling the old man to worry about his own life and reminding him that everyone else who'd ever slapped him had ended up 6 feet under, and he was only getting a pass because of his daughter. Enraged, King Yu screamed for them to finish the fight. So, Chu King hurled the yellow sword right at Tang Zan's father. It just grazed him, but the shock sent the man falling on the ground in pure terror. The 3 guys watching were completely blown away, realizing just how terrifying Chu King really was. Zan immediately rushed over to help her father up. After all that drama, the scene shifts to a clan meeting room elsewhere, where they seem to be tackling a serious issue. They were gathered to solve the mystery behind the death of Chu Kai, the messenger Zhen Yu, the one in the purple robe. One of them brought out something valuable, handing an unknown item to a blonde woman. The woman figured that Zhu must be hiding something, but since he was part of the Z family, they couldn't just grab him, so she decided to go with a different strategy. Back at Chu King's place, his fiancée barges into his room asking about their weekend plans. Finding the room empty, she felt a pang of disappointment, wondering where he could have gone. Meanwhile, as Chu King was leaving the building, he ran into those 3 guys from before and asked why they were still hanging around. From that point on, the trio started calling Chu King their big brother, hoping he'd have their backs in a tough spot, while also informing him that he'd go get some medicine for the injured guys. Just then, Zan appeared out of nowhere. Our protagonist then asked if she had any medicine he could borrow. Without a word, she just chucked the medicine at him. He then passed it over to the boys, who were incredibly grateful. Zan started to walk off alone, but Chu King fell into step beside her, asking if she was mad. He then told her that if she's looking for an apology, he'll give her one, but strictly on her behalf, not his. Tang Zhang just says it's unnecessary, admitting she knows her father is no angel. The guy acts like he's been completely pardoned by her words, and Tang Zhang admits that she always knew he was strong, but never dreamed Chu Qing would actually be stronger than her. Playing defense, our protagonist claims he just has a knack for scaring people. Then, switching gears completely, she asks if he's been training in martial arts. He's thrown off, shocked that she's not more upset about what went down with her guardian. Looking heartbroken, Tang Zhang explains that she just got dumped by her boyfriend. She flashes back to the moment he told her that even if she got on her knees and begged, he would never marry her. Trying to lighten the mood, our hero tells her that, even if that jerk won't marry her, he wants her to be his woman. Confused and wiping away tears, she asks how he can be so certain she would ever marry him. Looking her dead in the eye, he asks if she doesn't marry a great guy like him. Who's she gonna marry? Tang Zhang shoots back, asking if she's supposed to actually believe him. He hesitates, says nothing, and she realizes that his silence means she really was rejected. The protagonist quickly adds that even if they don't get married, they'll be together forever. Doubting him, she asks if he's just going to marry someone else. He promises he won't. Then he says that while he's around, he'd only make her his second wife. That, of course, kicks off a whole new argument, and he walks away laughing. but he's suddenly startled, stopping dead in his tracks when he sees a woman sitting on the wall of a building. That image immediately brings to mind a master who's out for revenge. Not wanting to drag Tangzang into this mess, he tells her he's off to talk to an old friend and tries to say goodbye. But she's not letting him go that easy, so he explains that the Taoist aunt is back for revenge over what happened with Yi. She stomps on his foot with all her might and tells him he better not die before she can get back with help. As she takes off running, the woman approaches Chuqing. Without saying a word, she just gives him a death stare and launches her first attack. And with that, the battle begins. Chuqing dodges, instantly realizing that the women from the Leaf family are on a completely different level than anyone in the fairy world. The woman, sharp as a tack, spots Tangzang fleeing and immediately goes after her. Seeing this, our hero tries to cut her off, chasing the woman down. She whirls around, grabs him by the throat, and demands he hand over the martial art he used, or she'll wipe out everyone he cares about. He plays it cool, saying he has no problem with that, and asks if she'd like a peek at the other treasures he's got. A wicked smile spreads across her face as she says that besides his life, she wants everything else too. He tries to change the subject, asking if she'd be interested in learning his wind technique. She just scoffs that she'll make him regret the day he was born. As a way to worm his way out of it, Chuqing tells her that if she really wanted him, he wouldn't be strong enough to resist. The woman just laughs, saying that if she truly wanted him, he wouldn't even have the ability to fight back. As she drags him away, she explains that he has to die to bring peace to the spirits of her students. Arriving at some remote place at sunset, the protagonist asks why she brought him all the way out here. The answer he gets is that he's about to go through hell so she can have his techniques extracted directly from his life force. Clearly freaked out, he tries to convince her that her little plan is never going to work. While the guy tries to buy time with some casual chit-chat, she just flings him across the field, putting her incredible strength on full display. Out of nowhere, Bala's Wang Chun appears, and he immediately worries she's there to arrest him for killing the messenger. The blonde woman demands they hand him over to her, but the woman battling, Chuqing flatly refuses, saying that's not up for debate, the blonde's skills. As the fight kicks off, Chuqing realizes that no matter who wins this bout, he's going to be in a world of hurt. With that grim thought, he makes his move, striking the first woman and driving his sword straight through her back. Chuqing rationalizes his actions, claiming she was absolutely going to end him, so he had no choice but to strike before she could defend herself. The woman collapses, dead on the spot. Bala takes in the scene, cautiously waiting for the dust to settle as she removes her robe. She remarks on how cruel he was, and that's when it hits Chuqing this is his betrothed. She begins to explain that she had only come to save him, but ended up stumbling upon something truly extraordinary, before asking if he was the one who took down the purple-robed emissary. Our protagonist admits that he did, in fact, kill a purple-robed supervisor and asks if she's here to investigate the incident. Taken aback, she confirms that she is, but admits she never imagined the culprit was living right under her own roof. Aiming a weapon at Chuqing's chest, she demands to know why he killed the emissary. As charming as ever, our boy offers her two options. Either they tell everyone he acted in self-defense, or they say that his fiancée ordered him to commit the murder. Stunned, she can't understand why, after opposing their marriage, he'd suddenly say something like that. The boy explains that he simply doesn't want to die. Bursting into laughter, she suddenly asks about getting a room together, completely turning the tense situation into something way more casual. The blonde then pulls out a drawing she found and asks where he got the information for it. He explains that he's the one who drew it. Although she's skeptical, he insists there's no reason for him to lie to her. With a curious and calculating tone, she suggests that he might actually be capable of designing new training methods. He plays it down, claiming it was just a prototype. This encounter completely alters the way the girl sees her future fiancé, and she admits he might actually have what it takes to get into the national university. With that, she proposes a deal. She'll help him take care of the whole emissary situation, and in exchange, he'll help cure her. In response, our protagonist says he doesn't even know what's wrong with her body, but the blonde retorts that figuring it out is part of the test. If he can't, she will have no choice but to hand him over to the Ministry of Supervision. So, the deal was set. Curing her was the key, and in return, his problem with the ministry would be resolved. She then started to explain why their marriage had to happen, but only on the condition that he give her a kiss in exchange for the information. Chuqing demands the info first, adding that he actually finds her quite beautiful. She begins to explain that the supervision department is one of the empire's main institutions and has always been led by a member of the Kong family, the imperial family. Our boy is already starting to suspect that his fiancée might be a pretty big deal herself. She explains that she could never become the empress because there were certain rules preventing it. However, one of the other powerful families broke this tradition, which is precisely why their marriage has to happen. Chuqing immediately understood that this was nothing more than a marriage of convenience. The blonde then asks if he can truly help her. The boy's only condition is that he wants wine bullets. After she flatly denies his request, our protagonist pulls a pill from his pocket, explaining that he could trade this for the bullets. The girl is confused, asking if that single pill is meant to cure her. He doesn't confirm it, but promises to study her condition. The pill is known as a tonic medicine and boosts the user's strength by a solid 30%. After taking it, she immediately feels the medicine's power kick in, completely overwhelmed by the energy. She takes the wine and asks for 10 bullets in exchange. The guy is astonished by the bullet and quickly realizes it's way more potent than the one Shoham used on him. Chu Ching explains that this one is a higher level, but the most powerful ones are at level 5. Then they start the treatment, beginning with her face. She immediately feels a strange sensation. Sure enough, her face starts to transform, becoming slimmer, and he gives her a quick kiss on the cheek. She glances in a mirror and is completely amazed, and they hug to celebrate. Chu Ching clarifies that he can only fix her face, not the rest of her body. Startled, she feels pretty indignant about having to live with a normal face and a swollen body. He explains that this is pretty indignant about having to live with a normal face, not related to her training but to her natural constitution, and if she keeps it up, she will die. The fiancé is stunned by this news and proposes that he help her create an effective training method. The guy explains that training methods aren't easy to just create and mentions that it looks like her spiritual root was taken from her a long time ago. Without even flinching at what he just heard, the protagonist comments that it was probably a member of her own family who snatched her spiritual root. Enraged by all this, she points a weapon at him and demands that he keep his mouth shut. In response, Chu Ching just taunts her, saying she's probably dying for revenge, even if it costs her life. Livid, she fires a shot at the boy and orders him to leave. He warns her that she can't push herself that hard or treatment will wear off. And just as he says, the blonde's face starts bleeding as the treatment is undone. Chu Ching explains that the Chu family only came after him to force a marriage, and he now realizes that the bad blood between him and her family can't be resolved. As a suggestion, the protagonist proposes they team up and he will do his absolute best to help her. As he leaves, he warns her to stop practicing martial arts for now, because her life is truly at risk. With her face bleeding, she looks unconvinced that he would actually do his best to help her. Meanwhile, Tang Xin arrives, running, with another woman right behind her. They notice the two are gone, but there are definite signs of a fight. Tang Xin gets annoyed with her second aunt for making sarcastic remarks. The aunt explains that she wasn't exactly motivated since she was forced to come out and defend her boyfriend, and then questions if her niece is getting on, a little too attached to this boyfriend of hers. The girl's phone suddenly starts ringing. It's Chu Ching with an update. He tells her that he's already back home and they'll see each other at school tomorrow. Tang Xin breathes a huge sigh of relief at the news. Her aunt, however, insists on visiting Chu Ching's house. Later, during dinner at the protagonist's house, his mother asks if his fiancée isn't coming for dinner. The boy explains that she's probably on a plane heading back to the Imperial City. His parents don't really get the situation, but comment that the marriage is still on. The protagonist mentions that she has no plans to get married in the next year or two, and explains what happened with the whole arranged marriage deal. His parents are left totally speechless, looking as if they already knew the whole story. Meanwhile, Chu King is just thinking about how he's going to get payback on that enemy family. On the plane back to the Imperial City, Gangu gets a list of everyone who had contact with XU. Looking it over, she sees the only close contact was Chu Sing and thinks to herself that their fates are seriously tangled together. Back at Chu King's house, he decides to go mess with his sister. After Gangu had been using her room, he opens the door, spots a giant hole, and decides to call his sister to see her reaction. When the call connects, some random guy answers his sister's phone, leaving him completely confused, especially while his sister is clearly with another dude. The phone rings, and she answers by mistake. Just for laughs, Ching pretends he's one of her boyfriends. Xing's face just drops with disappointment. His sister, totally desperate, grabs the phone from her boyfriend and asks what on earth her brother is doing. Bursting out laughing, he tells her to give the phone back and explains that he's her actual brother and was just pulling his leg. A sibling fight kicks off right there, and she asks what important thing he needed to tell her. To calm his sister down, our hero asks if she wants him to wire her some money. Her mood instantly flips, and she says yes, that he's the best brother ever. Checking his balance, he sees he has 360,000 Rian wonders if Yi Chenny was the one who sent it. His sister, getting all concerned, says she can't let this keep happening. What would people think of her brother taking so much money from Yenny? Her boyfriend chimes in that if she's giving him a hard time, he'll handle it. The girl explains that Chenny Shi is a member of the Yi family. Meanwhile, at school, the three guys are still treating Chu Sing like their boss. This so-called boss wants the three of them to start practicing ancient martial arts. He explains that his training is on a whole other level and that he needs people training with him who are actually useful. They struck a deal that Chu Sing would personally train the three of them, but their conversation is interrupted by a girl leaning against a fancy car, asking if Chu Sing is bullying his classmates. With a big friendly grin, He says he's not that kind of person and asks what she's doing there, offering her a milk tea and promising it isn't spiked. She says she came just to find him. He turns down the drink, commenting that it's not really his thing. In that instant, the girl moves in closer, like she's about to kiss him, but someone else interrupts, asking if he is Chu Ching. He says yes, and the blonde security woman says the head of the family wants to see him. They quickly realize it's the Tang family, and he agrees to go meet them in the car. Once he gets in, he asks if his aunt was the one looking for him. Inside the car sits an elegantly dressed woman and Tang Zhang's father. Ching starts things off with a sarcastic tone, asking if the nanny was also part of the meeting. Kenu fires back immediately, saying again that he is not a good match for Tang Zhang. In response, the woman says she isn't his mother-in-law, and it finally clicks that this family truly despises him. Taking a step back, our hero asks what they wanted from him. On top of calling him arrogant, stubborn, and reckless, his would-be mother-in-law compares being smart and deserving of her daughter to coming from the fishing town of Yongyang. Clapping back at her statement, the protagonist says the family must have incredibly refined taste. The tension between them boils over, and the whole confrontation ends when Tang Zhang finally appears. Up, the girl demands to know what her mother was doing there. She then asks why Chu Ching was also present. Without answering, he pulls her into a kiss, leaving both her mother and father completely speechless. Tang Xin shoves him away and gets into the car, saying that it's getting late and she should be heading home. But Yoni just drags him over and shoves him into her car, demanding to know who upset her so much. He tries to brush it off, saying she'll handle things on her own, but she snaps back that he should have thought of that before kissing Tang Zhang right in front of her. Seemingly satisfied, she lays down the law. He is not to be around other women in her presence. As he gets out of the car, she thinks to herself that he belongs to her and her alone. But on his way home, he gets a completely unexpected call from his sister. She's telling him to take care of their parents and to apologize for her, leaving him totally confused about what's happening. Suddenly, another woman grabs the phone and gives him an ultimatum: get to the Drunken Dream building in 30 minutes. If he's even 1 second late, all he'll find is a dead body. The scene then cuts to his sister, collapsing, just as Chu Ching is seen flying over the city while on the phone, frantically asking if anyone knows the Drunken Dream building. The person on the other end says that it's the most important gold trading warehouse in the area, and its boss is a legendary woman named Mang Zui, known for her unbelievable strength. His contact states they can't help him. He fires back that he doesn't need their help, emphasizing that he will save his sister, no matter the cost. Arriving at the location, he finds a luxurious skyscraper and is directed to the 67th floor. Once he gets there, he finds a single, closed white door at the end of the hallway. The protagonist heads straight for that door and, upon entering, finds his sister tied up and sitting on the floor. The moment she sees her brother, the girl pleads with him to run, but she's cut off by a vicious kick from the woman watching over her. Chu Ching immediately retaliates, starting a fight, but they're interrupted by a commanding voice ordering them to stop. A woman with long hair and a veil over her face asks if he is Chu Ching. Halting the fight, he confirms that he is. His sister, desperate, begs him to stop talking and just leave. With a simple gesture, the protagonist casts a spell to put his sister to sleep, promising he'll take her home soon. Chu Ching then demands to know who the woman is and why she kidnapped his sister. The woman introduces herself as Mang Zui, the owner of the establishment, and states that Chu Ching's sister worked there as a bartender. Already stressed out, the boy asks what his sister could have possibly done to get beaten so badly. In response, Mang coldly says he should be grateful she's still alive. Our hero declares that anyone who messes with his family is destined for death. In a flash, Mang Zui launches a swift attack at Chu Ching, calling it a test to see if he's strong enough to back up such bold claims. The boy is shocked by the woman's speed, but he manages to dodge the blow. He takes an aeonic pill, but still questions whether he'll actually be able to defeat her. A battle breaks out, and Mang taunts the boy, questioning if he can really defend his sister. But after he takes the pill, a massive explosion of energy erupts, shocking the woman. He obtains the Sword of Death, appearing through all the smoke and, to everyone's utter surprise, Mang emerges from the haze, questioning the protagonist's true skills, before launching a strike capable of cracking the very ground and remarking that Chu Ching is just a kid. The clever boy quickly asks for a moment to talk. The woman questions what he could possibly want to discuss. The protagonist just asks what is really going on there. The veiled woman informs him that his sister had gotten involved with the wrong person and that she was simply there to handle the fallout. Chu Ching pleads with her to let his sister go. Mang Zui approaches, removes her veil, and reveals a bright red slap mark across her face. Chu Ching is floored that someone had the guts to smack her across the face like that. In response, the woman explains that Chua had messed around with the mayor's only son, and because of that, she earned that slap. Our protagonist asks what she wants in return. The woman demands 300 million to ransom his sister's body. As a clever ploy, Chu Xing suggests she release his sister and in return, he would handle the mayor for her. They strike a deal. Chu Xing has just 3 days to come up with the money. To prove his worth, he tosses a stone over to Mang so she can see just how valuable it is. The moment she realizes its worth, she jacks up the price, demanding a whopping 20 spiritual stones for his request. But there's a catch. Part of the deal is that he has to spend the night at her place. After sealing the agreement, he gently lays his sister down on a bed, only for Mang to suddenly wrap her arms around him. Chu Xing quips that she better not be the one asking for mercy later. Unexpectedly, the woman scoops him right into her arms. Completely caught off guard, all he can think is how he's being carried like a princess. Once they get to the room, Chu Xing demands to know why she doesn't just off him and take all the spiritual stones herself. It would be way easier. Mang casually mentions that getting rid of him now might cost her some major perks down the road. She also adds that her intuition is usually spot on and could even be considered a special talent. Chu Xing is already exhausted, wondering why he ever agreed to get involved with this psycho. Mang appears with a sinister grin, asking if he's had enough rest before he leaps from the bed, striking out with his golden sword. He lunges after her, launching a counterattack. Furious, he declares he's taking his sister, and if she has a problem with it, he might go down, but he's taking her with him. Blinded by rage, he storms out of the room and carries his sister out of the building. Meanwhile, Mang is completely captivated, finding his fiery behavior incredibly entertaining. When the siblings finally get home, they're immediately confronted by their father, who demands to know what time it is and what in the world happened to his sister's face. Thinking fast, Chu Xing cooks up a story, claiming the police called to say his sister had been kidnapped, but that she's totally fine now. Their father, completely baffled, points out that their family is broke, so why would anyone bother kidnapping her? His son quickly counters, saying that a lot of girls have been snatched lately. In the middle of the argument, his father accidentally lets it slip that something went down at their mother's company. Chu Xing immediately asks what happened, but his father clams up, refusing to talk about it, and just tells him to go shower and get to bed. His curiosity piqued, Chu Xing decides to make a call to dig up some information on his own. His sister wonders if this is all her fault, maybe because of some debt connected to the romance between Chu Xing and Tang Zhang. Weighed down by all these problems, he finally passes out from exhaustion. The very next day, Chu Xing decides to pay a visit to his mother's company. It's actually his first time ever going there. He walks right up and interrupts the front desk conversation, asking where the general director's office is, explaining that he's in a rush to see her. The receptionist agrees to lead the way, but they run into some awkward chatter along the path. And that's when, right in the middle of the hallway, Chu Xing comes face to face with his mother. Seeing her son, the president asks what he's doing there. The secretary quickly apologizes, making up an excuse that he's just a distant nephew, which leaves Chu Xing's mother totally confused by the whole exchange. This kicks off a seriously complicated situation that leads to the president to ask if the secretary's real ambition is to become her daughter-in-law. The protagonist is floored to see his mother so enraged and speaking so bluntly. The president then orders the secretary to head over to the finance department to collect her severance. Right after, she turns on her son, demanding to know why he's skipping school. Inside a private room, his mother grills him, asking if it isn't a normal school day. Defending himself, Xu whips out a paper with the words school certificate on it, showing her he has official permission to be there. Dropping the lighthearted act, his mother gets serious, questioning what really went down with his sister, since she doesn't buy the story he fed his father. The protagonist sits down beside his mom and explains what actually happened. The president, completely incredulous, questions her son's sheer nerve for waltzing into a place like that. He reassures his mom that he and his sisters are fine, all while thinking that he'll have to clean up the rest of this mess on his own. Using his power, he licks the water out of a glass, showing his mother what he's capable of, then returns every drop to the glass. With this little stunt, the protagonist wanted to show his mother that he was plenty strong enough to protect himself and his family. The president, concerned, remarks that she thought Yi Chenny was the one who had changed her son so much. She had no idea there were other factors at play. Changing the subject, Shuing asks what happened with his mother's company, to which she snaps back that it's none of his business. At that exact moment, Yenny suddenly throws the door open, calling the president her mother-in-law. The woman lets her in, leaving Shuing completely baffled as to what the girl is even doing there. She defends herself, saying she heard her mother-in-law's company was in a jam and came to see if she could lend a hand. Meanwhile, in his head, Shuing is racking his brain, wondering how to find a weapon that can handle the Wayne-Shu bullet. The girl casually comments that finding a weapon would be a piece of cake, and the protagonist immediately asks for her help. Trying to make a quick exit, he says he's going to go check if Hua needs anything. Ichi sees right through his excuse, and with a fierce move, she corners him, demanding to know why he's trying to leave. She then drags him into the women's restroom, announcing she's going to teach him a lesson so he'll finally understand who he's really dealing with. Shuing quickly declines the invitation, saying he's busy today. In response, she warns him to never let her meet any of his other girlfriends because she might just get rid of all of them. Getting right in his personal space, She says she's giving him a fair warning so he can't blame her later. With a bewildered look, he wonders how this girl is so determined to be the one wearing the pants in the relationship. The protagonist then makes a break for it, using the excuse that he really has to go now. Enraged, she violently yanks him back by his shirt. Without missing a beat, the brunette says it's weird that he can't even stand still and asks if he's messing around with another woman. The boy then has a flashback of something he did with the blonde. His guilty expression gives him away, and his girlfriend becomes absolutely furious, realizing Shuing really is cheating. In the car, the boy thinks that because of Ye Chenny, he'd almost forgotten about his other problems. His brother-in-law's house is on Suzaku Street. The people who live there are all incredibly powerful. Getting a house in that neighborhood wasn't just about money. You needed a massive amount of wealth and influence. Upon arriving, the house looks peaceful and quiet at first glance, but he knows better. With who knows how many hidden cameras and a palpable, powerful energy, there's no way he can just walk in and meet the King family members. And since he's completely in the dark about their abilities, trying to infiltrate without some serious prep work would be a total disaster for Chu Sing. If he does manage to get inside, his first move is to find his brother-in-law and get a read on him. If the guy is anything like Mei Xing Li, it's going to be a major headache. But if he genuinely loves the protagonist's sister, they might just gain an ally who can help change the mayor's mind about her. A car pulls to a stop in front of him, and Tang Zhang steps out. He walks over, asking if she was looking for him. He asks how she even knew he'd be there. Annoyed, she fires back, asking why he's ditched school for the past 2 days. He just tells her he was in a funk and needed to blow off some steam. Concerned but still ticked off, she questions if he really needed 2 whole days to relax. She then asks if he's angry at her. Totally confused, he asks why on earth he'd be angry. In a much softer voice, she brings up the trouble with his mother's company, admitting it was the Tang family's fault. She figures that the last time her mom saw him, she must have said some nasty things, which is why she assumed he's upset with her. Placing a hand on Zhang's cheek, he tells her she's worrying way too much and that him skipping school has absolutely nothing to do with her. He adds that it actually makes him really happy knowing she cares so much. Blushing, she reminds him she's his girlfriend and admits she's still afraid that the second she looks away, he'll get himself into some kind of trouble with someone because he's so sneaky. He privately thinks, "I'm not your dog, you don't get to keep me on a leash." Out loud, the protagonist asks if she's ever heard of someone named Zhuang. The pink-haired girl says of course, there are several masters in Jingmen, and Zhuang is ranked number 2. She controls the largest underground operation in all of Jingmen. She then asks him how he knows about her. He plays it cool, saying he just heard about an influential person in Jingmen with that name, then asks who the other masters are. The girl explains the list includes the first wife of the King family, then 2 people from the Tang family, her mother and her aunt, 2 from the Li family, and finally, 2 from the supervision department. He thinks to himself that it's a damn good thing he decided to just scout the place first. Things could have gotten really ugly. He knows Hua is a pro at gathering intel, and he's going to need her help. Later, at Hua's house, he's thanking her for sorting out his mother's company problems. She looks adorable, fresh out of the shower and dressed in her pajamas, waving off his gratitude, she says, as it was super easy, then latches onto his arm. Blushing and staring right into his eyes, she purrs that she just took a bath and suggests that now would be a great time for him to make a move. Completely ignoring the invitation, he says he needs her help with something. A little while later, after explaining the plan, he finishes by saying that to keep his sister safe, he has to break into the Singh family's estate that very night. The peach-haired girl warns him that the family is one of the wealthiest and most powerful in Jingmen, so digging up that kind of intel won't be easy, but she promises to do her absolute best to help him. She then asks exactly what information he needs on the Singh family. As her fingers fly across the keyboard, he lists off the monitoring system for Suzaku Street, the schematics for the Singh estate's alarm system, and an internal map of the house, including the staff's patrol routes. Suddenly, they hear a footstep. He feels a terrifying presence right behind him. In a flash, he draws his sword and aims it at a brunette only to lower his weapon an instant later. He asks what she's doing there. Furious, she shoots back, asking why she can't be, and says she came looking for him. She looked for him at his mother-in-law's, but not finding him, she assumed he was with a brunette and now sees the lie. They're both in shock, but he's even more stunned because he's been caught completely off guard. Chewing demands to know how she got inside when he had locked the door. Twirling the key on her finger, she retorts that it's because she has a copy. Irritated, he questions why she even has a key. Looking embarrassed, the other girl admits she gave it to her. He marches over to the brunette, snatches the key from her hand, and promptly tosses it in the trash. The guy tells her to never come back, claiming all she does is get a kick out of bullying honest people. Pointing right at him, she sneers that all he knows how to do is protect that little pipsqueak, and adds that she can't wait to see what he'll do when he finally needs her. Then, she storms out. He looks at the other girl and says she doesn't have to obey her, and if she keeps causing trouble, she should just tell him. The sweet girl thanks him and then asks if it wouldn't be better to go after Sister Yi, since she looked absolutely furious. Giving the girl a gentle shake, he tells her to forget it and to think more about herself, asking what else they needed to do. Just then, an explosion blows the door off its hinges. It's the jealous girl, armed and dangerous. The protagonist starts to worry, because now the crazy girl is hunting them with a weapon. He tries to talk her down calmly. Tired of his excuses, she pulls the trigger, and a bullet zips toward them. The girl dodges while he lunges at the maniac, quickly grabbing the gun. Absolutely furious, the guy screams, calling her an unhinged lunatic, and asking if she seriously had the nerve to shoot. She doesn't see the problem, saying it's no big deal since they're in Jingmen. He yells, asking if she enjoys trying to take him out with that thing. Her response is absurd. She says she doesn't want to end him, just put a hole in his beige family jewels to stop him from wooing other women. Laughing, the brunette asks if he likes the gun and if it met his requirements. He realizes it's the perfect weapon for the level 3 Wangshuan bullet he got from Gang Yu. Unfortunately, he has to thank her because it's precisely what he needed. The protagonist tells her to just go home, but she claims her car broke down and she has to crash there for the night. Seeing the brunette snuggle up to him, the jealous girl feels completely left out and miserable. Instantly, the guy shoves the other girl aside and tells her to go watch TV in the living room because he and Hua have work to do. Irritated, she asks why she can't just watch them. His excuse is that it's almost exam season and his lowly friend is going to help him review his homework. She only relents because she wants nothing to do with studying math. In the room, the sweet girl shows him the locations of the cameras and alarms, but warns that once he's inside the Xing residence, she'll help him handle all of it remotely. He thanks her. At that very moment, the jealous girl appears at the door and comments that it's way too quiet, then barges right in. Seeing the two at the computer, she awkwardly asks if they'd like a glass of water. He sees right through her act and tells her to get out. The girl can't stop wondering what's going on between them. She wants to go back to check on them again, but needs a good excuse. She spots a delivery flyer, which gives her the perfect reason to go back. She tries the door, only to find it locked. Forcing it open, she sees they're still just at the computer. Holding up some takeout boxes, she announces she ordered skewers for them to eat. Furious, he just picks her up, carries her out, and gives her a light smack on the rear. Completely mortified, the girl asks how he had the nerve to spank her. He replies that if she's not enough, he'll just give her another one. Outside, the protagonist is convinced she's just messing with him, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with her car. Fed up, he just shoves her into the back seat. With a suspicious glare, he says assures her there's nothing wrong with her car and tries to say goodbye, but a desperate Yi grabs him by the shirt, then yanks him inside. Finding her sitting on his lap, Shu explains that he doesn't have time to play her games since he has important things to resolve the issue. But before he can finish, Yu closes the distance and plants a kiss on him, thinking to herself that she needs to claim him completely so there's nothing left for the short one. She's incredibly persistent, but an embarrassed Chu Xing gently pushes her away before stating that he is genuinely busy with a seductive look. A girl asks if he's sure reversing roles. The hero grabs her wrist. Looking down at her, he calls her cheeky. He then decides to kiss her, declaring he's going to finish her off after being intimate. Both begin to get dressed. Enchanted, the girl asks the protagonist if he enjoyed it or if he's angry with her. He replies that he's not angry, and even if he were, it wouldn't be with her, while wondering if she could ever act. Graciously, she ruffles his hair affectionately. He says she feels like they're drifting further apart and that the problem is he keeps fighting with other women, but still gets angry, swatting her hand away. The protagonist thinks he doesn't want to be treated like a puppy, and that if anyone else did that, he would cut off their hand opening. The car door, he says she should go home now and that they'll see each other later. Honor-E asks if he's leaving right now, however, the boy glances back and begins to hesitate. He wonders if he should head to Haha right after being with E, and although it feels a bit wrong, he still needs to resolve the problem with his sister. Suddenly, approaches the protagonist and smacks him on the butt, leaving him in total shock. Laughing, she says it's her revenge for his earlier smack and that she enjoyed doing it. She then tells him he's not like other men and that if he were, he wouldn't have caught her attention since she likes men who play hard to get, adding that one day he'll be chasing after her. Che realizes she resembles the popular girls from his world and no matter how many flings she has, she will end up in trouble. Walking away, he wonders if that's a good thing or if it's just wishful thinking at that moment. He calls out to him smiling. She asks if he can't be a good boy. The boy responds by questioning if she could be a good girl and marry him. He answers that she has no problem with that, but asks if he's underage since it seems too earlier. Akira retorts by asking if what they just did in the car was childish, leaving her completely flustered. Straightforwardly, he asks what she wants as a wedding gift. With a love-struck expression, she says she wants the entire city of Jimin. Walking away, the hero replies that it might be possible and that she just needs to make sure to be a good girl. Embarrassed, Yi comments that he says all that without even kissing her. Later that night at the Leaf family house, Hua asks the guard if he can see the small building to the left, the one where Single's son lives. She then explains that she has already hacked the cameras and security alarms, but the girl warns that he still needs to be careful regardless. Putting on the mask, the hero says not to worry, as he has everything under control. Hiding, he thinks that it seems his sister and her future fiancé are on good terms. Therefore, he should go after him first. Waiting by the window, he ends up seeing something he didn't want to. Hiding again, he thinks that must be Miss Seeing You, and from the looks of it, they're having a great time. That's when it dawns on him that she must be upstairs. But then, something feels off. He quickly scrambles up a tree and sees an old woman carrying a tray of food, and she's radiating a strange, powerful energy. She suddenly glances nervously toward one of the trees. Our hero grabs his walkie-talkie. Turning away, the old woman mutters to herself that there's nothing there, and complains that she's just getting old and useless. She sighs that the young master is barely eating, and if this keeps up, he's going to faint. Chu realizes that even though he was completely hidden, the old woman still sensed him. He concludes that she has to be Singman's #1 master. A little later, our hero finds his future brother-in-law sulking on his bed, staring at a picture of his love on his phone. Peeking in, Chu figures out that this kid must be Sha Ta, and from that lovesick look on his face, he's still completely smitten with his sister. He quietly begins to sneak into the room. At the door, he uses his ability to unlock it. Without even looking up, the boy says he doesn't want to eat and that he only wants to see Chuksha. But then he realizes it's not his grandma when he sees our hero standing there in a mask with weapons drawn. He's totally stunned. Before a scream can escape, our guy claps a hand over his mouth. He tells him to keep it down and introduces himself as Chu Ching, Chuzia's younger brother. Immediately concerned, the kid asks how his sister is and if she's in trouble. Our protagonist turns it around and asks if he already knows what went down. On the verge of tears, the boy asks with a trembling voice if something happened, saying it's all his fault for dragging her into this mess. Chu tells him to relax, explaining that his own mother wanted her gone, but that he got her to safety. That's when the kid admits it's all his fault because his mom was trying to force him into a marriage with Tangen, completely ignoring his feelings. A shocked Chu realizes that if this kid hadn't fallen for his sister, he would have ended up getting seriously played. Suddenly determined, the boy asks if the protagonist is there to break him out, saying he just needs a minute to pack so they can leave immediately. However, our hero explains that he actually came to negotiate with his mother. The boy is doubtful, saying it's useless and she won't even listen. Chu says he has to try, and tells him to make sure Master Singh doesn't interfere, but the kid says that's impossible because he's basically under house arrest. So, our hero suggests he either fake his own death or cause a big scene to keep her busy for 30 minutes. Suddenly thrilled, the kid agrees, saying that as long as he gets to see her, he'd even be happy to have her stick around. For the whole night, no problem. With that settled, the protagonist vaults out the bedroom window, glancing around. He hears a shower running nearby. His mind immediately starts working on a plan. Just then, the pink-haired woman starts to step out of the bath, but she senses someone else is there. She finds herself face to face with a masked, armed intruder. Surprisingly, the woman simply strolls toward him with a seductive smile, making our hero wonder what is up with this entire family. The woman, wrapped in a towel. A woman wrapped in just a towel saunters over to the protagonist. She asks if he's some new guy the family hired and what the deal is with his mask. Getting right in his personal space, she starts to peel off his mask, leans in closer, and plants a kiss on him, purring that she really likes it. But right after the kiss, our hero smashes his forehead right into hers. The headbutt connects so hard it leaves a bright red welt on her forehead and sends her crumpling to the floor. He then coolly asks if she's still a fan of his mask. A little while later, he's perched on top of a tree. Meanwhile, an older woman is serving coffee to another lady who's busy reading a book. The maid calls out to her boss, informing her that the young master is trying to make a run for it. The woman just scoffs, calling it ridiculous and wondering if he still hasn't gotten the message. The elderly attendant, however, tells her not to get worked up, explaining that the young master is still just a kid and that she'll go check on him herself. At that, both the maid and the older woman head toward the boy's room with sly smiles on their faces. Our hero realizes this is his chance to make a move. He walks right up to the main door and starts knocking. Startled, the woman inside calls out, "Who's there?" With a weapon in hand and his mask on, our hero throws the door open, not showing an ounce of fear. The woman tells him to get out immediately, promising she'll act like she never saw or heard a thing. However, the protagonist just ignores her and keeps on walking. He plops down in an armchair and says that since he's already made it this far, there's no way he can just leave so. Suddenly, the woman asks if he just dealt with Sha Ta, remarking that it's no surprise the kid is causing such a commotion. She then demands to know if he came here because of Chusha. Chu replies that he's here to ask for her blessing for his son to marry Chusha and wants to know what she thinks of the proposal. The matriarch remarks that the girl's family background is pathetic and asks who he thinks he is, also questioning why he's so determined to make the two of them a couple. At that moment, our hero begins to remove his mask. The woman's eyes go wide as she realizes it's Chu Ching, Chu's younger brother. Visibly impressed, she comments that it seems his sister is still kicking, and that Mangui certainly has a lot of nerve disobeying her orders. Our hero explains that Mangui is the one who kept his sister alive, and if it weren't for her, Mang would have come after the matriarch himself, as she probably deserves to be put in her place. After hearing this, the matriarch crosses her arms and asks why she gets the feeling he's trying to play her. Chu Ching insists he's only there to make a request, adding that he knows she's a person of great generosity, suggesting she should forgive his sister and let her go. Adjusting her glasses, the woman asks if that's supposed to be a threat, noting that he's loaded a level 3 Wan Chu bullet in his weapon and asks if he thinks that makes him invincible. Breaking into a nervous sweat, our hero realizes she's seen right through him and quickly levels his weapon at her. However, the woman is incredibly fast and launches herself directly at him. Looking back, the protagonist realizes just how unbelievably quick she is. With no time to dodge, he's struck and sent flying across the room. After taking the hit, he struggles back to his feet, coughing up blood. He wonders how this Shang El was supposed to be just some ordinary person. He now sees she's a true martial arts master, strong enough to wipe the floor with the so-called 10 great masters. As a massive wave of energy erupts from her, the woman questions if he honestly believed he could protect his sister with that little toy. Chu admits that he was being arrogant, but comments that winning or losing at this point is completely meaningless. Intrigued, the woman asks if he has another trick up his sleeve, daring him to show it to her now, admits she hasn't seen anyone so impressive in years. Looking closely at the bullet in his gun, she asks if it's one of the Gong family's special Wang Chu bullets. Her whole expression hardens as she demands to know if he's from that family. Our hero plays it cool, saying he isn't, but then reveals he's holding a marriage contract with her family. Giving him a suspicious look, the woman asks if he can actually back it up. Getting to her feet, CH remembers the condition she set. She'd only greenlight Xiaoda and Chu-Chu's marriage if their family was as powerful as the mighty Tang family. Swan hands over a scroll, telling her it's worth a look. Inside, Chu breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that, thankfully, Gang Wei came in clutch, repairing the marriage contract and getting it back to him. Right at that moment, the woman unrolls the Pranizid scroll to get a better look. Her jaw hits the floor. Utterly stunned, she stammers, "You're the great Anam Chu," and that's where the video cuts off. If you don't want to miss the epic conclusion, be sure to ring that notification bell, and I'll catch you next time on Tob's channel.